Chair, we're now live.
Good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome to those attending and also to our viewers watching live on the Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon, London. Details of the business to be considered today is shown on the agenda, copies of which are available in the room, and it's also accessible online under the live broadcast. For those present in the room and intending to speak, please note that you will be filmed and any statements that you make will be recorded and made in public. For those solely observing in the room today, you may wish to know that the camera is angled away from the public gallery where you are currently sitting. At the end of the public part of the meeting, when the committee moves to discuss any confidential matters, the live broadcast on YouTube will be cut. A reminder to anyone speaking today that your voice will only be heard and audible if the microphone is switched on, and you'll know that by the red light on your microphone. A fire alarm. We're not expecting a fire drill, so if the fire alarm does go off, please follow officers to the fire exits and out of the building to the designated meeting points. Your mobile phones and tablets, which we all have now, for those in the room, please switch off any mobile devices now. Please put them on silence. And please note that councillors on the committee may use, obviously, their laptops or tablets during the meeting to view the agenda paperwork. We do have residents' feedback forms, and if you are so minded, can you please complete one of the yellow residents' feedback forms? The information on these forms is intended to help us to improve the way that we run our meetings, so forms can be completed and left in this very room for collection after the meeting. Or you can complete the forms and return them by post to the addressee on the form. If you are watching on YouTube, you can also complete the form online, and there is a link below on the broadcast. Declarations of interest. Please do ensure that you identify which item you have an interest in and state whether your interest is pecuniary or non-pecuniary. And please give reasons that you have an interest. Members, you do not need to declare an interest in any item on the agenda where they have already listed this interest on the registers of interest. Furthermore, you do not need to declare an interest just because you are, for example, a ward councillor. So, let's have some introductions. I am chairing the meeting. I'm Councillor Becky Hagger, and I'm going to work over to my right.
Good morning, my name is Chantal MacLeod. I'm the legal officer for today's hearing.
Good morning, I'm Councillor Darren Davies, Vice Chairman of this committee.
Good morning, Councillor Kuldeep Lakmana, and I'm a member of the Licensing Committee.
Good morning, Daniel Ferrer, Licensing Team Manager, here on behalf of the Licensing Authority.
Craig Lloyd, Environmental Protection Team.
Jamie McCarthy, Environmental Protection Team.
Mohammed Hassan, the DPS of the premises.
Good morning, everyone, again. Noel Samaru, NTD Consultants, representing my client from Gate Vision.
Good morning, everyone. Lois King, Licensing Officer.
Good morning, I'm Liz Penny. I'm the Democratic Services Officer and I'm clerking the meeting today.
Thank you. I'm also aware we have, obviously, members of the public, and we also have our ward councillors as well in the room too. Do we have any apologies of absence?
No apologies, Chair.
Do we have any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. Just to confirm that all for today, all the items are order of business marked Part 1, so everything will be considered in public. Are there any matters that we have been notified in advance or urgent?
No, there are none.
Lovely, thank you very much. Right, so we can come on with the agenda. And can we introduce Lois, please? And would you like to do your regulating officer's report? Thank you, Lois.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. You will have all received the report bundle and agenda and will be familiar with the application. This is a hearing to consider a contested application to vary the premises licence in respect of the Prince of Wales, Sahara City, 1 Harlington Road, Uxbridge, UB8 3HD. The application was submitted by NTAD Consultants Limited on behalf of Game Measure Limited. Representatives from Game Measure Limited are present today, along with the applicant's representative, Mr. Samaru. The submissions made by Mr. Samaru and Game Measure Limited in support of the application have been included in the report bundle from page 81 onwards. The application was made and advertised in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003. The variation application seeks to extend the authorisations for the sale of alcohol on and off the premises, recorded music both inside and outside the premises, regulated entertainment inside and outside the premises, and late night refreshment. The current hours for licensable activities can be found in paragraph 3.3 on page 4 of the report bundle, with the proposed hours for licensable activities found at paragraph 3.4 on page 5 of the report bundle. The proposed opening hours will be Sunday to Wednesday from 10 a.m. until 1 a.m. the following day, and Thursday to Saturday from 10 a.m. until 2 a.m. the following day. The conditions being offered by the applicant can be found in a separate operating schedule, which has been attached as Appendix 2 on page 39 of your report. Whilst the operating schedule submitted with the application includes a significant number of conditions from the current premises licence, which in itself can be found in Appendix 3 on page 45, there are several omissions, mainly in relation to conditions designed to uphold the prevention of public nuisance licensing objective. And these have been outlined by Mr. Daniel Ferrer in his representation in Appendix 4 on page 55. We have received representations from the following responsible authorities: Metropolitan Police Licensing, the Licensing Authority, and the Street Scene Enforcement and Environmental Protection Team. The responsible authorities are present today and will no doubt elaborate on their concerns. In addition, there are 4 representations from interested parties, namely 3 ward councillors and 1 resident. 1 representation in support of the application was also received. The applicant's response to the representations can be found from page 81 onwards and includes some additional proposed conditions which can be found on page 83, together with details as to what steps management have taken to address the concerns raised in the representations. I now invite the committee to determine this application, giving due consideration to the application and all submissions, both verbal and written. Thank you.
Thank you, Lois. Can I just check, have we had any other complaints or MEs since the last one? I think we've got noted here in April 2024.
Not to my knowledge, Councillor, no.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions? Thank you very much. I will now move on to the applicant and the licence holder. Would you like to give a quick summary and your case, please?
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. As you've just heard, this application was submitted back in April. We're now in the middle of, or coming up to July, and it's just unfortunate that due to some representations that were received against the application, and I want to thank the committee for giving us the opportunity to submit our additional bundle, and I apologise for the late submission previously. This application, without wanting to repeat and be repetitive, was for an application to extend the hours that was currently given by this committee about 18 months ago. And I'm sure you're aware, prior to that, premises did have, under a previous owner, some very serious incidents. At that last hearing, you heard from the licence holder how they were going to uphold the licence and objectives and what they were going to do to ensure they didn't have any more of that antisocial behaviour or complaints. In the last 18 months, quite honestly, he has done extremely well. There have been no complaints that we're aware of. One that was consulted with Daniel. Apart from that, there have been some unsubstantiated, I think 2 or 3 unsubstantiated complaints. The main reason we're here is that when we submitted the application, everybody had 28 days to put in their representation. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, the police chose to wait until the 28th day to put in their representation, which gave us very little time by the time we viewed what they had to say and put some evidence to support our application, and that's hence why the original details were late being submitted. You've now got them in front of you, and without going through, I know you've had the opportunity to read all of them. So the main points were, I think, that the police were very concerned, and they've made some statements that they don't feel the licence holder can uphold the licence and objectives. I totally object to that statement. He has done extremely well in the last 18 months, and for the Metropolitan Police to say that on one visit they were allowed entry to the premises is not true. You'll see in the statement from the door supervisor that he recognised PC Brown from the hearing before, so he knew she was a police officer. And she saw the premises licence holder inside the venue and said to the doorman, "Oh, I know him." So the doorman actually walked in with her, as it shows on the video. She then spoke with the licence holder, Mr. Mohammed, and that was it. He escorted them through to the back. They had a look around. They had a chat outside, and that was basically what took place. Now, the committee is also aware that as police officers attending the venue, he had a no-win situation, because if he'd refused them entry, that's a breach. And they are saying that they let him in, they let them in, and that's a breach. So if that is the only breach really they've had on their premises licence in 18 months in that situation, I'm surprised they've even brought it up. With regards to playing music, having a belly dancer, as Chantel will obviously advise you, under Section 177 of the Licensing Act, it is deregulated up until 11 o'clock, unless that deregulation has been taken away at a review hearing, which obviously hasn't taken place. So that is not a breach of his licence. He also had a temporary event notice in place for that night anyway. You know, again, we object to the fact that it's been classed as a breach on his premises licence. With regards to a belly dancer, I think that took place about 8 o'clock in the evening. That is not a breach of his premises licence either. With regards to Daniel's representation and the points that both have made regarding some omissions on the original application from some of the conditions, we addressed those pretty much straight away, and some of them, after consultation, we put straight back in, and I think there was a couple of conditions that we spoke about when we met the police and Daniel at the premises. One of the main ones was with regards to the ID scanner. Now, this is a restaurant that's open during the day, and have families turn up at 6 o'clock in the evening with their children and have to scan IDs at 6 o'clock at night to go into a restaurant, I personally felt was a bit too strong. So we suggested not to do away with the ID scanner, but to have it from 9 o'clock in the evening, when children are not permitted to enter the premises. That way they'll be scanning for adults rather than children. It was also suggested that the ID scanner wasn't being used. Well, that is completely incorrect. The ID scanner is used every night, and unfortunately, yes, it does have to be done from 6 o'clock in the evening, which is difficult for them to administer from 6 o'clock. but you have evidence in front of you where we can take print-offs of the scanner, and I know it has been redacted for obvious reasons, but you can see the times that are there. One of the other things that was said was that there was extremely loud music being played at the venue. Well, as you're aware, at the last hearing when the licence was granted, they have a very complex sound limiter installed. So everything has to be played through the TVs. There are no external speakers. So even though when PC Brown came to the premises that evening, yes, there was a DJ playing, but all his music has to go through the limiter and then played out through the TVs. From outside, when the police parked their car at the back of the premises, they didn't hear any noise. It's only until they actually said they went into the garden that they actually heard the music. So it couldn't have been that loud that they couldn't hear it outside. So there's no real noise breakout there. But again, I can just reiterate that everything is played through their sound limiter. And we have their direct next door neighbour whose garden backs on to their premises here, and you've seen her statement in front of you. One of the other comments that I want to make, and I don't want to emphasise it too much, but I do need to mention it, is that I find it irritating, I think, that councillors or the police should go around knocking on people's doors and giving them incorrect information as to what this licence application was. To be told, oh, do you know that Prince of Wales are applying for a 2-3 o'clock in the morning licence every day? You should put in a complaint and you should object to it. I think is totally unreasonable and not the way I'm sure that this committee doesn't like things to be done. I was taken back by that, and however, one of the residents wrote to us and said that is exactly what happened, and I think you have that letter in front of you. Mr. Mohammed's direct next door neighbour did put a representation in to support the application, and she lives directly next door. So I'm again a bit surprised that a certain council have put in that some of their constituents can hear music inside their house, and they live 500 yards away across the other side of a double dual carriageway, yet his next door neighbour says she doesn't hear anything. So that's a bit confusing, and obviously that is for you as the committee to decide what you wish to take on board from that. I'm glad that Mr. Mohammed is here, because he's also here to answer any of your questions, more so than me. He is running the operation. If you have any questions for him or myself, we're happy to answer anything that we can. Thank you.
Thank you for your comprehensive report. Just to clarify, these questions are just regarding the report and just to gain clarity for all of us for what you've written in the report. There's just a couple of questions I'd like to ask. Could you just confirm the new, obviously we said there's new management, there's new ownership. Can you just confirm what that entails and what that is and who it is? Thank you.
It's not new management or new ownership. It's the same management ownership that you granted the licence to 18 months ago. He came before the committee as a new licence at the time after the incidents that took place. And they took over the business of Game Leisure, completely new operators, and they are still the operators that have been there for 18 months.
Thank you. So just confirming the same management in there.
Yes, Chair.
Also, just to confirm and clarify, you have included 7 conditions into the new pack, which weren't in there, obviously, in the original pack. Can you just confirm the time of the external area, please, Thursday to Saturday, as you have in your new pack?
11 o'clock, Chair. So we didn't actually want to change any of the hours for the external area.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just sort of going to clarify that it's not after 1 a.m, no admittance. It's 11 o'clock. If you could just clarify for us the difference between the outside area and the inside area, because I know that is quite a big issue and we haven't really covered it in the report that you've just given. So could you just, for clarification, can you cover the difference between the outside and the inside area, please?
The main difference, Chair, is that the inside area is the original area of the public house that's always been there. The outside area is a covered area in the rear garden that any music or any activity takes place out there, as I said before, goes through sound limiters. It's been checked. Sound reports have done previously when the licence was granted by this committee. And that's it. It's a covered outside area where they can, part of it has a retractable roof where they can smoke shisha or cigarettes, and children are not allowed to be in that part. The rest of it is basically an extension of the restaurant, but outside with a covered roof. I think there's 3 TVs. Yeah. 3 TVs that they can play music through, but limited.
Sorry, can you just clarify the retractable roof, please, and when that is retracted or not?
It slides back, yeah.
It doesn't slide, it's fixed.
Oh, okay. I apologise to you. The roof on the area doesn't retract. However, it is open, so it is 50% open for them to allow to smoke shisha in that area.
Okay, so sorry, the retractable roof isn't retractable. It's open, is that what we're saying?
Yeah, Chair, sorry for confusing you there. If I can explain, there's a main roof, and then there's a side roof that is completely open, but this roof does not retract, but it is there, but all the sides are open.
Thank you. Thank you. Also, if you could just confirm, on page 83, can you just finish off the sentence on number 8, please? So on page 83, on number 8, we've got all patrons entering the premises after 9 p.m. on Thursday, Friday, Saturdays and the UK bank holidays shall be required to. And is that the conditions down the bottom? I just want to double confirm that there's nothing missing from there. So it's page 83, number 8.
Sorry, Chair, on mine I've got number 8 is on page 84.
This is on the new bundle pack. So
Yeah.
the new bundle pack you come in, it's got proposed conditions and further steps proposed by the premises licence holder.
I'll put that.
I'm sure it is the bottom end, but I just want to double check. Can you see?
Yeah, all
you've got-
patrons entering the premises after 9 p.m. on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and UK bank holidays shall be required to go through the ID scanner. That should say.
Okay, so just to confirm, shall be required to go through the ID scanner should be in there.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Sorry, it just helps us to gain a little bit more. One final question, and I'm going to hand over to our councillors. I just want to make sure that we're very clear about this. We've gone through the outside and the indoor area. So it's very obvious, is it, when you're in the outside area? Yes? It's very obvious that you're in the outside area? Yes. Okay. Yes, can we just clarify that the outside area is more than 50% open? Thank you.
Yes, Chair. This is something that came up at the previous hearing when the licence was granted. And yes, it was deemed that the area is more than 50% open. However, there is an area where shisha smoking takes place that is over 18s only. But the whole area is classed as 50% open.
Right, thank you. I did have another question, but I've forgotten what it is. So I'll move on to the councillors. Councillors, do you have any questions to clarify the statement?
For you, Chairman, can you just clarify, so I can correct my memory, but was it not the premises that volunteered the ID checker from 6 p.m? So I believe from the last meeting, just for clarity, you guys volunteered that, and I believe it's actually on YouTube. So I can just double check that you guys did put that forward.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Debs. It may well have been. However, over the last 18 months, it has proved to be something that causes concern to customers when they turn up with their children and their parents are asked to show their ID and so on and so forth. But it may well have been something that was offered at the beginning, but you know how these things are over an 18-month period. It's just proved to be a pain in their side. It's not something that they would say, oh, no, we can't operate. It's just something that would ease the operation if the ID scanner was just pushed back to 9 o'clock.
Thank you, Chair. I have 3 questions. The first one being that you said that some of the conditions were omitted. Can I ask the reason for that, please?
I wish you hadn't asked me that, Councillor, but some of the conditions were omitted in error. One of the conditions was omitted because, and we're talking about the ID scanner condition, was that I wanted to consult with Daniel and the police regarding that. But obviously we didn't have an opportunity to do that because their representation came in very late. We didn't have time to do it. We didn't consult with it. We did speak to them about it. I think if Penny recalls and Daniel recalls at the meeting we had at the premises. But at that time we hadn't had their representation, so I was a bit surprised to see that, they've left off conditions, because they were conditions we spoke about. And you'll see there was an email from me to licensing to say that, from Daniel to say there was some conditions that were not on there, and I wrote back and said, yes, but we want to sit down and speak to you. We've got an open door policy. We want your help. We want to work with you. And we never got any response. And there was an email I think you've seen in the bundle to confirm that.
The next question I have is, you said that councillors knocked on doors in the vicinity. Did anybody come knocking on your door?
Councillor, I do a lot of these hearings, and I've been an agent for probably too many years, and I always come to the same thing. As councillors, their constituents are everybody, whether they're business owners, whether they're homeowners, they're all part of their constituents. And as councillors, they should be fairly independent, and you would think that if they are getting complaints regarding a premises, that they should also go to that premises and speak to the premises owner as well, as part of their constituents. No, he hasn't had anyone come and knocking on his door. No.
Sorry, and the last point that I have is that I think somewhere in the bundle I read that the smoking area, if people want to come out of the restaurant to smoke, they come to the front rather than the back. Is that correct?
That's correct, Councillor. The inside is set up as more as a restaurant, and out at the front door they've got a designated smoking area that again was agreed at the previous hearing, and I think it's limited to 4 or 5 people. That small area at the front is right where the doorman stands. It's under camera. It can be monitored, and some people may not want to go out the back where there's maybe music playing or so on and so forth. So it's a small area just out the front.
Thank you very much. That's all, Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just have some clarity on the doorman's statement? So the doorman states that when the police attended, he radioed to the manager, looking back through the entrance doors to where he could see him, to which she walked past, stating that I can see him, it's okay, I know him, I will speak to him. Some 10 to 15 minutes later, 3 individuals come out with body cameras. And then the section that you guys have put in, or from from yourself was to say that only gained entry by seeing the DPS, and you said that he was escorted. So there's just a bit of difference there, and I just wanted to seek some understanding that how a fully trained door supervisor has been able to allow an unknown entity at the time, because if the officers were plain clothes, they hadn't shown warrant cards, how did they get through? And also, did he walk them or did he stand there?
No. If I can explain, and then maybe Mr. Mohammed would also clarify for you. Where the front door is, if you open the front, it looks directly at the bar, which is probably 6 metres from the front door. Mr. Mohammed was standing behind the door. So when the door was open, PC Brown and her colleagues walked to the door. Now, the doorman recognised PC Brown from the previous hearing, so he knew she was a police officer. He stopped her, and he said, I think he said, "Do you have a booking?" And the reason he asked that is some people turn up late, and he has to say, "Do you have a booking?" They say yes. They say, "Stay here. I'll call the manager." Mr. Mohammed, go to the front door and say, "Look, I'm really, really sorry. You're late for your booking. Our licence doesn't allow you in after 10 o'clock. Our apologies. Please give us a call tomorrow, whatever, and rebook." That's his job to do, to just not turn people away from the door, because it can be seen as a bit rude, especially if you've made a booking for the restaurant. As the doorman said this to PC Brown, she saw Mr. Mohammed stand at the bar, which is only from here to where you're sitting. And she said to the doorman, "Oh, I know him." And she sort of walked past him, and he didn't escort her, but he walked with her, because he wasn't really sure what was happening. And that's basically, from what I understand, what happened. When I spoke to the doorman, that's what he explained to me what happened. He wrote his own statement that he submitted. But please, feel free to ask Mr. Mohammed, who was actually there, what he felt the situation was.
Yeah, so Mrs. Pennybound, she came at the door, and the security said, "Do you have a booking?" And it is my job to come to the front of the house, and if someone's coming after 10 o'clock, I have to let them know, rather than the security, because sometimes they're families and it doesn't look nice. So I'll come over to the door, and I usually say, "Oh, sorry, we have a condition, after 10 you can't enter. We'll try and offer you something, or a gift voucher." Some people get really upset about this, coming all the way from a far distance. At the time, he did radio me in, and I was making my way to the door, and PC Brown walked in saying, "Oh, I know him." She wasn't allowed to be seated or to be served, and I was going to refuse her entry, whether it was on the door or inside the premises. However, obviously, because she's a licensing authority, she was coming to inspect, so that's what happened.
Councillor Davis?
Yeah, thank you for that. We'll come back to that a little bit later. Can I just get clarity as well? The night that the police attended, in the footage, it looks like there's someone DJing outside in the garden area. Is that as we've seen it? There's someone set up outside.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, and the sound system that you have to stop the music peaking and going over the required decibels, how does that work?
So when it goes over a certain decibel, I believe it's 86 or 87, it cuts down the music, and then you have to play the music again.
So does it cut the power to the socket?
It cuts, yeah.
Okay.
Not to the site, to the TVs. So the TVs go off.
So yeah, the power that supplies the TVs is cut out.
Yeah.
And then how do you reset that?
And then you have to turn it back on again.
So you go and hit the button on the wall that resets it, yeah?
Turn it back on again, yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Just to add on and for clarification from Councillor Davis's about the door supervisor, can you confirm to me that you agree with the statement on page 119? That's the doorman's account. Because he doesn't actually mention police in there, so I just want confirmation that you confirm the doorman's account. It's on page, thank you, 119, thank you.
Councillor, whether I agree or disagree, that's his statement. If he says that's what happened, that's what happened. I'm not in the habit of refuting a witness's statement. He wrote that on his own accord. So.
Thank you. Just for clarification, when we read the statement, it does actually say, it doesn't say he recognised anyone, nor does it say that they were police. So I just wanted to clarify that. Okay, thank you very much. Right, we will now hear from other responsible parties present, and I think, first of all, it's the licensing, so Daniel.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, members of the Licensing Subcommittee. As I said earlier, I'm here on behalf of the Licensing Authority as a responsible authority. And, Chairman, just want to confirm our representation and, importantly, that we maintain our representation. You will see that we've raised the representation in relation to the licensing objectives of prevention of public nuisance and the prevention of crime and disorder. You'll find my full representation on pages 55 to 56 at Appendix 4. I'm conscious that I'm sitting snugly in between the appropriate licensing responsible authorities, police licensing and our noise team at environmental protection. So what I don't intend to do is try not to duplicate what they're going to say or replicate any things. But I do think it's important to stress why I'm still objecting to the representation and the reasons why. Firstly, if we take prevention of public nuisance, we say quite simply that the terminal hours, which have not been amended or changed as far as I'm aware, those 1:30 Sunday to Thursday to Saturday and 12:30 Sunday to Wednesday have not been amended. And those terminal hours, we say, despite the changes that they said, still has risk potentially to residents who living within the vicinity in terms of prevent public nuisance with noise, but also dispersal and also engine noise as well. So despite their changes, we say there will still be impact on the licensing objectives. In addition to that, on submitting the application initially, Mr. Summery stated it would be thorough and robust, are the words that he mentioned. But when he initially submitted it, there were those holes, there were those gaps. So it wasn't robust, it wasn't thorough. It was actually police licensing and the licensing authority who had to point that out to them at the meeting on the 2nd of May. And whether he said it was a mistake or not, or whether it was intentional or not, those were gaps. So it wasn't robust, it wasn't thorough, and we had to point those out to them. Now I accept and I acknowledge that they've put in their additional pack, and so there's certain conditions that they have now put forward. And what I say is we acknowledge that and we're grateful for those submissions. But there's a couple of things that don't go, we say, far enough. So, for example, the old condition 34, which originally has the external area not being used at 2300 on Sunday to Thursday and midnight Friday to Saturday. They are proposing 12 o'clock midnight and 1 o'clock respectively, and we say that's not good enough. Similarly, the old condition 34 for admittance and readmittance, they're saying they want it at 11 o'clock. We say that's not good enough. Position stands at 2200, and we feel the same in relation to ID scan as well, Chairman. In terms of crime and disorder, I know my colleague is right here beside me. All I have to say in that is it's deeply disappointing and actually quite worrying that during the consultation period that breaches have been detected by police licensing, ID scan and the readmittance. In addition to that, to compound matters, when there was a meeting held at the premises on the 2nd of May, further breaches were detected in relation to incidents not being recorded, SAI door staff who were on duty not being put in the register, and also the DPS was not familiar with the situation in terms of showing the police recent footage when we went down into the basement on that day. So, and it's also worth reminding that each and every condition attached to this premises is an offence under the Licensing Act, Section 136. And this is what we're here to do, to prevent those crimes, these offences, reoccurring again. And so, and I feel like I should also look at the pact that they've included, because there's a lot of things that I do think that needs clarifying before I sort of like finish my summary of it. In terms of page 86 and 87, they have stated, we do not accept that complaints have been made against this operation of the premises, as we have never been made aware of them, neither by the complainant or the licensing authority. We say that is not true. And in fact, later on in the bundle, it clearly states a reason why I visited, because of a noise complaint. In relation to TENS, where there has been problems, it's myself either visiting the premises, speaking to the DPS, but in addition, making contact with them. So I say at each and every stage that complaints have been made, during these 18 months, he has been made aware of them. In terms of temporary event notices, they have said at the bottom of page 86, temporary event notices were submitted with a view to applying for a variation to the premises licence to show that it can operate with later hours without compromising any of the licensing objectives. And I say that has not happened, and they have failed miserably in that sense. For instance, the temporary event notice on the 18th of November did raise complaints from residents. One in particular I took, and I had reason to visit the premises. And when I made contact with Mr. Hassan, he was already aware that 3 complaints had been made in relation to that temporary event notice. So it hasn't been plain sailing, and there hasn't been no problems at all. There's mention about, and I don't want to go too much into this, but it should be noted, they say on page 87, that the police and licensing authority chose to wait until the last day for the representation to submit their applications. And I simply say to that, there is 28 days in terms of the consultation. That is statutory. Whether I submitted a representation on the first day or the 28th day, that is there based on statute. And it is no grand strategy or tactic that I submitted it late on the day. It may have not met his expectations because he may have wanted to mediate on that fact. And I would say in terms of like mediation, we are always open, we are always transparent in terms of mediating. And in fact, it states in our policy that we may choose, where appropriate, to mediate with the applicant. And I say we've always been that way inclined. Page 87, we emailed licensing regarding the operating schedule and received no reply, so comments made regarding removed conditions is somewhat confusing. My understanding that was clarification because based on the initial application, the licensing authority was not aware of what conditions were applying and what they were proposing. So that was for a clarification. They state the application has a very, again, robust operating schedule, which we were under the impression was being supported by the police and the licensing authority by virtue of no objections. Now, that is untrue as well. At no case did police licensing, as far as I'm aware, and the licensing authority give any support whatsoever in relation to your application. When we sat down and met on the 2nd of May, in fact, we expressly stated what our concerns were, and they were the length of the hours, and in addition to that, the omissions of certain conditions. And so I completely disagree with that statement. And finally, they have said, at the bottom of 87, I could keep going on, but I'll stop at this. The external area will cease all regulated entertainment at 2300 every day. But again, that's not simply true, because that may be in relation to the belly dancer, but recorded music is seen as regulated entertainment. And they are applying, Chairman, for 1:30 for those times, Thursday, Friday and Saturday, and 12:30 Sunday to Wednesday. And so that will have a big effect in terms of regulated entertainment, and as a result, implications for residents who have to bear that music at those times, on those days of the week. Chairman, in summary, because I think I should sort of like tie up here, or I'll sort of like keep going on, our objection is maintained in relation to the terminal hours, we say are too late, and which will cause disturbance for residents nearby. Secondly, we say those conditions, even with the addition information packs, don't go far enough. And thirdly, that on this very recent activity from the licence holders, how can we trust and have full confidence that that conduct, that we can ensure that the licensing objectives are fully promoted? And the final point I should say, that it was mentioned at last, hearing, but also in the pack somewhere, that their main driver is, and when I first met with Mr. Samaru on the 2nd of May, he said, business is bad, it's hard to survive. And that seems to be the main driver or motivator for this variation. And I say to that though they is a practical consideration, what we have to look at is our policy, the guidance, but also those licensing objectives. And we say they will be affected negatively in terms of this application. Chairman, those are my submissions in relation to this application. I'm happy to take any comments that you may want to make or any questions you have for me.
Thank you so much for that comprehensive statement. I just have one question. Did the applicant request any support or advice or preventative skill sets or issues that they needed and then actually put it in action? I think that's my key. So have they worked with you? Have they seek some professional advice from the council, and then have they looked at that and then gone to actually put things in action, especially regarding the breaches that we're hearing are already in place?
I think in terms of the 2nd of May, it's fair to say that the applicants have sort of said, okay, what else do you want us to do? We're open for mediation. We clearly outlined what our concerns and what their conditions are. And I think they said, oh, we'll be in touch or afterwards. But the first I've heard of these, of the submissions was when the information pack came in. But we put our concerns quite clearly to you at that meeting.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Any questions from councillors? Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Daniel. That's really informative, actually. Thank you. The breaches during the consultation, can you just give me clarity on what sort of breaches were found? Because I know you dusted over it, but...
Yeah, I don't want to go too far because it will stray into more of police licensing, but it's those detected on their visit.
No worries, I'll save that question for later. Thank you.
Okay, no more questions. Thank you. Thank you for that. We'll now move on to the Metropolitan Police, and if you'd like to give your statement, please. Thank you very much.
Red light at the bottom, but not at the top. Thank you. Better? Thank you very much. Obviously, you would have read my statements. We've had the additional information, and we've heard quite a lot of details here today already. I'd like to start by explaining that since the licence was issued, which is just over a year ago now, and between then and us receiving the variation for the application, which was in April this year, we've actually had very little interaction with the venue. As police licensing officers, we have something like over 1,000 venues listed in our records for either having a licence or having a temporary event notice, and as such, that doesn't give us time to micromanage venues, which is why it's so important that when licences are first issued, checks are done, conditions are put in place, to ensure that the licensing objectives are upheld and that the venue can be run responsibly, and that we want the management to be someone we can trust to uphold those objectives and conditions. To give you a little bit of a background and some of our interactions, as I say, it was just over a year ago the licence was granted, where we did obviously submit a representation at that, because there had been serious violence, there had been stabbings, there had been underage drinking, and it would have been obviously unacceptable for police licensing not to raise those concerns at any hearing. There were serious incidents, and it was actually on the day of the hearing that Mr. Hassan was introduced to us as the DPS, and that's when we first met. After the licence was granted, we were satisfied, obviously conditions were put in place, many, as the councillors already raised today, offered by the venue itself that they were proposing that they would be using. But since that time, straight afterwards, I offered Mr. Hassan some training around welfare and vulnerability, which he accepted and attended, so that was, as I say, approximately a year ago. And we've had 10 applications which we've never objected to. And that has been our sort of rapport, if you like. It was in April that we received the variation, and there was a lot of information to go through. Obviously, there was 41 conditions within the schedule, and there had been 43 on the licence. So we spent some time going through, comparing what was there, what was changed, what was omitted. And I obviously, as you know, have visited the the premise on the 27th of April, which was a Saturday night, and it was about 10:15. This was not a biased visit. This was not to find evidence for an objection. It's quite simply a basic visit following an application, something that's routine, is to be expected. We do these visits anyway. As I say, there's a vast amount of venues, so which ones we're going to go to, it can vary. It was an opportunity to check the running of the venue, and it was down to the management of the venue as to what we would find. And the fact that there were failings, which I stand by, there were failings, on the one night of the year that I happened to go, it's not something that I've engineered or made. It's what was presented before me, and well, quite frankly, it was disappointing. And I believe I even say that on the body worn footage when I talked to Ms. Sand, that it's disappointing to see. I would expect all conditions to be adhered to at all times. The fact that I visited during a period of consultation, so when the licence would have been examined by Mr. Hassan with his agent, and he says in the application, within the additional evidence, as Daniel's already highlighted, that they were doing tends to test the operation to show that there would be no wrongdoing. So the fact that the visit was done during that time, it should be expected, and the fact that there would be failings during that time is even more concerning. Mr. Hassan has said in the bundle that I was aware of the application for variance, and the inspection was purely there to find an objection I can hold against them. I mean, that's simply untrue. I want to check they're adhering to their conditions and acting responsibly, but I don't go specifically because I want to object. I go with an open mind and react accordingly to what I find. And it has to be said, I didn't go there and do a complete compliance visit. I wasn't going there checking all of the conditions. It was just, let's see what's going on. And obviously, I've encountered what I have. I want to be perfectly clear that when I attended, I was in plain clothes. I was not visible as a police officer. I, to my knowledge, have never met that security officer before. There was no recollection from him that I was a police officer. There's mention here that he knew me from the hearing before. I don't recall a security officer being at the hearing for the application for a licence. If he was, I would find that unusual, but I don't recall him being here. So I don't know how he would have recognised me, and there was no suggestion that he recognised me, and there's no mention in his statement that he recognised me. So, as I say, completely unrecognisable as a police officer. I have not been challenged. I have not been ID'd. I have not been prevented from entering. Later on, we have a conversation about he says that the venue was fully booked, so that's why we were talking about a booking or not. So because it was fully booked, he wasn't allowing people in anyway. So it's then that we said, let me just check, he's initially said to me, do you have a booking? I've said no. He's then said, how many for? 3? And it's then proceeded to allow me in. And we've walked in together quite pleasantly. And it's not until I've been well within the venue that I then see Mr. Hassan at the bar. I did not see him when I was outside. And it's whilst we're inside the venue that I've said something along the lines of, it's okay, I know him. And I've proceeded to go and speak to Mr. Hassan, who didn't appear to recognise me at first. And I said, do you remember me? I'm a Penny Brown police licensing officer. He goes, yes, of course. And the interaction has continued. But the entry should have been refused at the start. It's a simple thing. You know, security does not allow someone in after 10 o'clock. The security, it was apparently not allowing anyone that didn't have a booking. I wasn't stopped or prevented in any way. I didn't barge past or anything like that. It was pleasant, simple, unchallenged. So the accounts that are given are not true. I would have expected him to have stopped my entry, and if he did think I had a booking and it was going to somehow allow that late entry, at that point he should have been asking for my identity, to show my age, obviously. I would have provided my police badge and explained who I am, and therefore that I have an authority to come in to inspect. But obviously we didn't get to that point. The fact that Mr. Samaru says that he strongly disputes my accounts, and I've got the accounts here given by Mr. Hassan and the account by the security, they're untrue. And for me, that's a real concern. We find venues that breach their conditions all the time, and we deal with them, and we engage with them, and we educate them, and we see what we can do to improve. The fact that there are lies coming out saying about these things, it completely diminishes the faith and confidence I have in what I'm told about any of the evidence and the promises that are made, because I obviously know my account to be true. You as a committee will obviously have to choose how much weight you put on each person's account. I've attempted to be as transparent as possible, and as I say, I'm just shocked that it's been so disputed. It's quite routine for us to conduct these visits, and as I say, especially when a variation is in place. I would like to also highlight that it was after the visit that it was myself that called for the meeting. So I called to engage with the venue to discuss these failings, and obviously it was an opportunity to talk about the hearing as well. But as a result of what was said and the further instance that we established there, I felt that we couldn't sort of compromise or agree any further, and it would need to be for the committee to decide. And I've then obviously written my representation, and I have lodged my representation within the required time frame. But I've gone on quite a bit there. The focus of this hearing shouldn't be on me defending my integrity or explaining my actions. It should be focusing on what they want to change and how they're going to uphold those licensing objectives. Some of the failings that I think I've witnessed there, I think are quite clear and not disputable, and they're simply not acceptable. And assurances that they will be upheld and extra measures put in place. As I say, I don't have the confidence and the faith in that happening. So just to reiterate some of the breaches and the failings that we've all been discussing, obviously, as I say, the entry should have been prevented after 10 o'clock, and it wasn't. Everyone should have their ID scanned after 6 p.m. It wasn't. Mr. Hassan himself on the footage, when I point out to him that all patrons need to have their ID scanned at this time, he, in my opinion, I would describe his reaction as a little bit surprised by that. So, okay, all patrons, and he goes on to question, surely it should be over 25s only. He was treating it as a challenged 25 policy. They've offered that condition, as the councillor said, a year ago. When did they decide that they weren't going to adhere to that condition? When did they decide that actually it's not manageable? Has that been the whole time, or has that just been a recent thing because they haven't been doing the checks? And the IDs are there. They're not just there for the ID scanner's not just there for the prevention of under 18s coming in. It's also a great tool to deter and detect crime, because if someone's ID's been scanned, then they know that their information is there and it's accessible, and they can be easily detected, so they are less likely to be committing offences. In the same vein, obviously, if they do commit offences, they're easily identifiable, so we can deal with that. Another condition, at least one member of staff is trained to be operating the CCTV and download the images at all times. That obviously wasn't the case when we attended for the meeting. That was during lunchtime when the premises was open. I believe in their additional information they say someone comes in at 4 o'clock to do that. Someone needs to be there at all times. That's what the condition is. And also I would expect the DPS of a premise to be able to access their own CCTV and look at that footage. They need to have good management of the venue. They need to be able to check anything that's gone on, check the things to do with their staff. And yes, they say in their application, in their additional evidence, that it should be provided within 24 hours. Yes, that's true, but it's also true that someone should be there at all times to be able to access it. And it's not a case of picking and choosing which elements of these conditions you want to adhere by. All of them are there. They all need to be adhered to. The SIA register was incomplete for the inspection. I mean, the meeting, you were aware of the meeting, when you knew that was going to be happening, and Mr. San had the documents there ready for us, which was good. I hadn't asked to see all that. That was provided to us, so I've obviously looked at that. Again, I would expect, having known that we were coming, having the documents there ready, that should be something that was complete, that was correct. And it obviously raised questions around, is it you're not logging things properly, or are there not the security there? That's something that needs to be on top of. And as I say, I'd expect it to be on top, all up to date in that environment. with regards to noise and entertainment, I do not profess to be an expert when it comes to sound levels. That's not my domain. But however, I'm aware from when the licence was first granted that I believe there was 3 conditions that were put in place around the regulated entertainment and the music, and that was there specifically to try and prevent that public nuisance. In the first instance, you've got, I don't know how many people is an outside area, you've got the noise from people talking, you start introducing music, obviously there's the music levels, there's the increase in volume of people talking over that as well. The DJ that was playing, in my opinion, was much more than background music. It was loud, but my interpretation of the condition 37, that there'd be no amplified noise, music or speaker permitted in the external area. My interpretation was that would mean that the DJ would be contravening this. Now, I know Mr. Samaru has said that regulated entertainment is deregulated, the music, background music and so on is deregulated at certain times, which I accept, but my interpretation around that was a breach, and that was the intention of the conditions when they were put in place at that hearing. I would suggest that for today is potentially an opportunity to clarify that and to see what is and isn't allowed, both for the operator and also for myself and other responsible authorities that visit, to be able to know what is and isn't acceptable, and if that can carry on. I don't know whether DJs have been a common thing there or if it was just, again, this one day that I visited, but as I say, it seems quite loud, and the fact that I believe is the night that a complaint was received by the council for a noise complaint suggests that maybe that is a step too far. As I say, it's not my area of expertise, but it's something that today could maybe iron that out to make it clear for all. So ultimately, obviously, this hearing is to determine whether they can trade additional hours and amend some of their conditions. They're looking to be selling alcohol for an hour and a half later on most of the days, an additional 2.5 hours on the Thursday. So that's up to midnight Sunday to Wednesday, and till 1:30 in the morning Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturday, and also allowing people to be still coming in up until 11 o'clock at night, rather than the previous time, which was supposed to be 10 p.m. I would say that these additional hours are increasing the potential for crime and disorder. It allows people to come in later at night after potentially drinking beforehand, and they can then continue to drink at the venue until the early hours of the morning, with closing times there up to 2 a.m. In my experience, over 20 years now as a police officer, violent offences are more likely to occur in establishments where alcohol is consumed. Alcohol is a huge contributing factor for violent crimes, and allowing them to do later is increasing the likelihood of these things happening, which is why conditions need to be in place, but they also need to be obviously adhered to. And I've said this several times, and I'll just finish by saying that, I unfortunately don't have confidence that everything will be adhered to that is put forward, as I don't believe that everything that's already in place has been put forward, so I stand by my representation. Obviously, any questions, please? Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is a great concern, actually, that the applicant is challenging the police statement and also, obviously, review body cam evidence as well. So I think we do need to take that into consideration. I'm going to ask you the same question, actually, that I asked Daniel. And after the meeting, did the applicant request any support or advice or any preventative as to how he was going to step forward and maybe comply with all, and I use that word all, because it is important that it is all conditions?
They didn't ask for any advice or any extra training or anything like that. They were wanting to know what extra conditions they could put in place so that we could come to an agreement. I'd say that was fair. And I felt that was the focus on the meeting for them, whereas the focus on the meeting for me was more about what had been going wrong. And I felt like it wasn't being acknowledged or listened to, sort of glossed over in a way. That was my interpretation. The other interaction I have had with Mr. Hand since was actually after the last hearing, and there had been a couple of emails. We'd offered additional training. Mr. Sam was away, so he was unable to attend. He did say that a couple of staff would attend, but there wasn't anyone from their venue that attended that meeting, that training that we offered.
Okay, so just to clarify, there wasn't anyone that attended the training.
No, there was not. As I say, Mr Hassan had his excuses. Said he was on holiday, so he sent his apologies and told me there would be 2 or 3 staff that would attend. They did not.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillors. Councillor Davies.
PC Brown, can you just give me some clarity? In your statement you put that the DJ was playing amplified music in the external area. What gave you the impression it was amplified music and not through the TV?
As I say, I don't profess to be an expert when it comes to the music side of things. It was simply the fact that there was a DJ and the volume of the music there, and the general sort of vibe of it being very busy and lively. That was in my mind.
So there was no loud bass or anything like that. I understand you're not an expert, but you didn't see any speakers other than what was already mounted.
I didn't see where the sound was coming from at all. I didn't venture beyond the sort of like the initial stepping into the outside area. Once I was there, I didn't go over towards the DJ was or anything like that. I didn't wander around the outdoor area.
Okay. Also, you put that the 10 was not in effect at the time. What time was the 10 due to be in effect? Do you remember?
That's correct. There was no 10. The 10 started 1 past midnight. Would be the following day.
Okay, perfect. I'll leave it there for now, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cool.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question for the officer. Is it normal practice for you to have these unannounced visits, especially when you know that there is a variation to the conditions? Thank you.
Absolutely. As police licensing officers, we do unannounced visits on premises at all times of the year. And if there is an application in, whether it's a variation or a new premises licence application, it's quite normal it's very normal for us to go along and check the operation of the venue, to speak to the staff there, all sorts of situations. It's absolutely normal, yes. Very routine.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we move on, and we're going to be hearing from...
Excuse me, Chair, do I have an opportunity to...
not at this moment in time, is that right? Hold on a minute.
The representations from the Antisocial Environmental Protection Team, and then afterwards it will be, just to clarify the agenda, it will be questioning, and then it will be an open forum for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so representations from Craig and Jamie, please.
Thank you, Chair. Our main concerns with the change in the licence hours would be surrounding the potential noise issues arising from the premises, especially being the Thursday, Friday and Saturdays where they're open till 1:30 and recorded music will be played internally within the building during that time. Now, obviously, I'm sure you're aware of the location. It's a residential area. Properties are in very close proximity to the establishment. And whilst we appreciate there'll be no music in the external areas after the 11 o'clock, loud music until 1:30 in the morning presents potentially a problem just due to the fact that, 11 o'clock, the background levels are generally a little bit higher than they are at 1:30 in the morning, and that, in our opinion, could potentially lead to a statutory noise nuisance being witnessed, which is obviously an issue for residents in the area. So that's our main issue with regards to from the noise point of view. And is there anything else you would like from us, or?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, what I'd just like to say is you mentioned about the decibels, 87, it cuts off at 87. And just to counter, you asked, amplified music, if it's coming out of a TV or a speaker, it's still amplified. So for it to cut off at 87 decibels in an outside area and you've got 3 TVs in the outside area, when does it cut off at 87 decibels? Has it ever happened where it's cut out at 87 decibels? And do you explain what happens?
So when it reaches a certain...
I think we're just going to stop there. Sorry, can I just stop you there? Because it's not about explaining. We're just doing the questions and we're coming to that in the discussion area. Is that okay?
Yeah, that was my main concern, because I feel, 87 decibels in an outside area, regardless if it's a large speaker or TV, if it's reaching 87 decibels, it's as loud as no matter what it's coming out of. So I think that is extremely high for an outside area.
Yes, thank you. And can we just make a note as well? We've had, obviously, residents' complaints about the noise.
We have indeed received complaints about the noise from the Prince of Wales, Sahara City, but I would also add at this point we have not ever witnessed a statutory nuisance at this stage.
Thank you. And also to note, obviously, with the extension of hours, it will be very quiet at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. And one of those days is a weekday. It's a Thursday night as well. So just wanted to add to that. Thank you very much. Councillors, do you have any questions, please? Yes?
Thank you, Chair. You said that there's been complaints received. Can I ask how many? And within the which time frame, please?
Recent complaints, since the end of April, I think was our last complaint. And how we operate is we run an out-of-hours service. We came in the evening, the complainant had been received during the day, and the complainant was contacted, said, basically, we go live at 9 o'clock, the complainant contacted, said, if it's still going on at 9, please call us, we come out, witness the noise. That was the most recent one, and I would say we've had 2 this year.
Yeah.
2 this year from January till now.
Thank you. Councillor Davies.
Thank you. I know what you said about the decibels. I was going for that myself. Can I just get some clarity? Have you guys actually visited and looked at the sound limiter at all? So you've...
No.
No. So even prior to the install?
No.
Was you consulted on the type of limiter that could be had? Okay. When you guys attend for out of hours, do you make yourself known to the premises, even if there's no breach?
Always.
Always.
Oh, if there's no breach, no. If we don't witness a statutory nuisance,
yep,
we would not go. We have to witness an offence taking place. If it's borderline and it's getting closer and it might get late, we could go and have a friendly chat with them, just to let them advise them that, we're receiving a complaint. You might want to turn it down a bit, otherwise it could cause an issue.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
End of questions? Lovely. Okay, do we have any representation from parking here?
Well, from any of the residents that have made their representation.
Okay. And have any of the residents made a representation and would like to speak? Yeah, absolutely. Would you like to come up and take a seat? Thank you. If you could just introduce yourself, please, and then give your statement. Thank you.
Yes. My name's Janice Hopper. I live next door to number 3, Hillingdon Road. I'm back onto the pub. My statement's fairly short. I've lived there for 25 years. Even when I bought the house, there was a pub next door. I've been to 3 of these hearings, 4 of these hearings, even the previous management. Yes, my statement didn't say there wasn't any noise. What I said was there wasn't any unacceptable noise. It's a pub. It makes some noise. When people come, go, they make some noise. If there's a little bit of music outside, yes, it makes some noise, but it's not unreasonable. Having a restaurant at the end of the road, yes, is great. There are 3 other pubs in the area which all have a licence till 1 o'clock, I believe. I also have witnessed there's a lot more police attendance at the Vine when the football's on than there is at the pub next door. But that's, I'm sure you guys know that evidence. What I've seen today, and no disrespect, I don't know your lawyer, but it seems you're trying to dig yourself out of a hole. All the thing, just don't talk. If you don't know the answer, don't talk. Don't guess. You're trying to defend yourself, and unfortunately, they don't want to hear a guess. They want you to, I think it's that is not the answer. As a resident who lives next door, yes, there's a bit of noise. For me, it's managed. They manage the cars. Yes, people go to eat there, and sometimes it is busy, and that's great for the economy. They're doing their best. Unfortunately, English is not their first language, and sometimes they say things that they don't mean. And quite clearly from the ID scanner, they've not understood how that, I mean, I was here a year ago, and I didn't understand that it was IDing everybody. I thought it was over 25, and I get the impression from today's meeting and the evidence you have, they thought it was IDing over 25s. So I think sometimes, although, you know, they're just making a rod for their own back because they don't understand exactly all the language. But for me, as a resident, and I'm here with another neighbour today who lives a little bit further up the road, yeah, it's a pub. It makes some noise. It's not unreasonable, and if I have a problem, if any of the neighbours has a problem, they go speak to them and say, guys, you need to be on it a little bit quicker. And they're like, yeah, we're really sorry, we will. But they're trying to run a business, they're doing a reasonable job, and from the other pubs I see in the area, it's not unreasonable to give them another hour. No, I'm not necessarily up for the 1:30, 2 o'clock, but an extra hour, I can't see a problem with that. Then they're in line with the other pubs. That would be my opinion.
Thank you so much. Was it Janice?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Janice, for coming and speaking as well. It's really important that we hear. You can stay there for a bit, it's okay. It's important that we hear the residents' views and opinions. I have your statement in front of me, and I've just noted that you're talking about the times, and actually you have said yourself you're not too happy maybe about the 1:30 time.
Well, my statement.
Because
my statement does say an extra hour.
Yeah.
But, you know, and because that would then be in line with the other pubs in the area as well.
Yeah. I think when obviously you're aware of the hours, the actual opening hours to the public is an extension on a Thursday more than an hour. Yeah, so it's not, and also it's till hours opening to the public Thursday to Saturday are till 2 in the morning. I just wanted to confirm that you understood that, because it is over, especially on the Thursday, it's over than the hour.
Yeah, having been here 3 weeks ago and today, yeah, I understand that.
Thank you. Any questions from councillors?
Can we just get some clarity on the actual opening hours? Because I think we've got different. So,
yeah.
Can we just get clarity from, I know it's a bit out of key, but from officers of what the proposed opening hours are?
Yes, I think that's a really good idea.
Especially on the Thursday.
Thanks, Councillor Davis. I think that's a very good idea. Thank you. So, can we have clarity? Would it be, Lois, have you got?
The reason why I say that, Chairman, is because we've got two separate hours open to the public until 2, and then retail and sale of alcohol till 1:30 and refreshments till 1:30. Yeah. Okay. So can we just make sure that we are right and there is no confusion, yeah?
So, Councillor, looking at the actual application that we received, which is in Appendix 1 on page 19, the hours given for being open to the public on Thursdays from 10 o'clock in the morning until 0200 the following day, so early hours of Friday morning. That is what's been written on the application for a Thursday.
Sorry, through you, Chairman, is that for the sale of alcohol as well?
No, that's just open to the public. So on the retail and sale of alcohol on and off the premises, and thank you, Councillor Davis, it's important. So if I go through this, is that okay with everyone? I just want to make sure we're clear and we're understanding. The retail sale of alcohol on and off the premises, Sunday to Wednesday from 10 o'clock till 12:30. Thursday to Saturday from 10 o'clock until 1:30 a.m. in the morning. Late night refreshments on and off premises, Sunday to Wednesday from 11 o'clock to 00:30, Thursday to Saturday from 11 o'clock until 1:30. Regulated entertainment to include recorded music, Sunday to Wednesday from 11 o'clock until 00:30, Thursday to Saturday from 11 o'clock till 1:30, and then the hours open to the public, which was a question that I was asking, is Sunday to Wednesday from 10 o'clock till 1 o'clock in the morning, Thursday to Saturday 10 till 2. And there was a reason behind that, because obviously Thursday is very much a working, well, it is for me, a working day and a school day for my children.
Chair, can I just clarify something?
Sorry, in a minute. I know you're desperate.
No, it's just
to
about
speak,
the hours,
but...
that was all.
Oh.
Because I think it's important everyone understands those hours are for inside. The external area is not changing.
Thank you. Yes, I understand that it's
Thank you.
inside, but people will be leaving the venue.
I understand.
That's what we're concerned about. The leaving of the venue at 2 in the morning on a Thursday. But we will debate that and we will have a discussion in a minute around that. Thank you. Are there any other residents first, or is that... Yes, would you like to speak? Why not? Come on up. If you could introduce yourself, please, and then give your statement. Thank you very much.
My name is Dominique Masson. I live in Hillingdon Road.
Sorry, could you just hold on a minute? I do apologise. 2 seconds. I just need to clarify. Have you made a representation, an actual representation?
No, I came along with Janet.
I'm afraid on that basis that we just on the fact that you haven't made an actual representation as part of this hearing, I appreciate that you may well live locally in the area, but we were not able to hear your representation.
Okay.
But thank you for coming along.
Sorry, thank you very much, though. Thank you for coming. Councillors? Yes. And can we have the councillors? I know we've got 2 here. Councillor Roy Shamdell, yes, and Councillor Ectogo-Hill. Thank you very much. Sorry about the lack of room. We're a full house. Thank you. Councillor Shandell.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Committee. My name is Councillor Roy Chamdell. I'm the Ward Councillor for Colham and Cowley. I'd like to give a little bit of on what I've heard so far in terms of experience given. I'd like to give my experience as well. I've sat on the Licensing Committee for over 9 years and chaired it for quite a few years. So I'm fully aware of the processes and how we operate. And I must, rather, from what I normally speak, is the tone of this application is not, it's very adversarial, and I find that strange. I do know the DPS personally, in terms of, I'd like to sort of lay that out, and in what I have seen of his operation, he's very open, very positive, and somebody I would regard as extremely trustworthy in terms of delivering. But my representation is, as I will say, is when we receive these hours, the hours looked rather, well not rather, they were unacceptable. In terms of weekdays, opening until 1 o'clock Sunday to Wednesday and 2 o'clock Thursday, Saturday. And just for a little clarification, the half an hour is what we used to call in the old times as drinking up time. So you don't order a drink 5 minutes before you close and neck it down. I went out to residents asking their view. And the way I do that is I knock on people's doors and I say there's a licensed premises, they're looking to vary their hours, these are the hours, how do you feel? Full stop. There's no other comments, and it's a yes or no, and listen to what they say. And as I said in my representation, the majority were of the same view that these hours were excessive, and the reasons laid out in my representation. So this is the noise effect, parking, taxis, and some even said, look, this is not the West End of London. This is a residential area, and we feel this is not acceptable. We must look at the quality of life Because anything, the impacts of our licensable activities, you've got to look at the quality of life of residents and visitors in the area. And the committee, I'm mindful that they will be weighting it appropriately regards the economic benefit of the proprietor. It has been mentioned that the reason why extended hours are required is because to make money and to make more money. And to, we know the states of licensed premises in the UK where we have up to 2 to 3 licensed premises closing on a weekly basis. I do get that. But we have to, as been spoken before, the law is there for a reason. And we have to adhere to the law. Conditions which were offered up in the previous hearing were most welcomed. But then once you offer up conditions, these have to be adhered to at all times. And if you don't, we have a process which Daniel has mentioned. There's a process to follow. If you want to change variations, you have to go through the process. You can't do it on your own back. In the presentation by the applicant, I find it very disingenuous to paint a picture of councillors. He's mentioned he has a lot of experience. That's not an experience which I really see. Councillors do it for their residents. It's asking opinions, and the question I would ask is, if a councillor can go around the locality, and I mean houses close by, Coney Grove, and the first half of Hillingdon, down the ridge, and only the properties which are connected to the first part of the licensed premises. The question I would ask is, have they actually gone by and knocked on residents and asked their opinions? I also am concerned at such... We know the importance of this area. I'm sure his advisor would have told the licence holder. I don't see a licence holder here for such an important part of their business when there was an opportunity. I'm not going to tell the chair, but the order of proceedings is quite clear. The chair has already mentioned what the order of proceedings is, who speaks when and how. And I would expect, as a very, very minimum, that everybody...
Sorry,
can we have a bit of order, please? Can we have a bit of order, please? And I will come in if I don't feel this is being run correctly.
So,
thank you.
We know who speaks when and how, and I think we should respect that. And we all have an opinion to give. This has a checkered history by a huge, huge way. It's a premises which almost you could say is now tainted. That no matter what you do and how you do it on these extended hours...
Sorry, Councillor Shamdale, sorry. Could you just focus on the residents, please? Thank you.
Yeah. The residents are concerned that this could be a tainted property because previously when hours were previously run at, these are the issues that they faced, and their concerns are genuine that these problems would reoccur again. And that's basically what it is. It's not something that it's a new premises that could these problems arise. These problems had arisen. So these are the genuine concerns that previously, when the license was open, when the premises were open for after 2300 hours, these are the issues that we face. So these are genuine issues that these people live there day in, day out. But they're also nearly majority of the response is they like this premises. They like the food. They like the entertainment. They do. They're not against the premises. They are against the opening hours, and that's all really. and they feel that with these extended opening hours, if it were not as much as the 1 o'clock on a Sunday to Wednesday, I mean, a school night, school children nearby, they have going to school children, it closes at 1 o'clock, people coming out at 1 o'clock, and we don't know how long they'll be stay outside before they clear. Thursday, Saturday, again Thursday and Friday, Thursdays particularly, 2 a.m., again, once again, closes at 2 o'clock, and they would, I almost got the feeling they would welcome a reduction in hours. Somebody has suggested they stay open from Sunday to Thursday until 11, and then Friday, Saturday, extended hours, and that's my representation.
Thank you, Councillor. Just one question. Were they aware of any non-adherence to the licence? Were they aware, were any residents aware that they breached conditions at all when we went round?
No, that never formed any part of the discussion with any residents.
Okay.
It was purely opening hours.
Yep.
That's it, full stop.
Yep, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Davison and Councillor Lattenwana. Thank you.
Very quickly, Councillor Chamdale, thank you very much for your representation. Can you just let me know how many residents you spoke to roughly? I understand you're a very busy man. Do you have a rough idea of how many you spoke to?
I am a very busy man indeed, but I'm very precise in what I do, as you are aware. So I can tell you how many residents that were in. I knocked on... responses were 13 were for no, 3 were for yes. But in terms of houses that I knocked on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I'll add another 14 on that. That's 30 houses.
Thank you very much, Councillor Chamdale.
Councillor Lattenwana?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask Councillor Chamdale the same question that I asked the licence holder. Was that you made contact with the residents in the area. Did you at any time make contact with the licence holder? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lattenwana. I definitely am showing my age now because I've got to mention it. Yes, I did. As soon as the licence, the variation of licence was issued by Lewis King, I did phone the DPS and asked him. I suggested my views that these are rather long hours, and I suggested whether we can try and have some mediation in terms of if I can get people who are objecting, i.e. councillors and residents together. Unfortunately, that didn't prove fruitful for me because people were just saying, look, it's just the hours of operation that we're concerned about. Yes, I did reach out because in terms of one saying, I emphasise the point. I'll say young man, he does come across as somebody who really wants to make an improvement to what was operation in previous. And I hold a lot of confidence in him that he can do it. But once again, I just re-emphasise, I can't see the licence holder here. Thank you.
Any further questions, Councillor?
No, thank you. Thanks very much.
Councillor Davies.
Just for the record, can we just confirm that the licence holder, I believe, when we adjourned last time, did state he wouldn't be in the country, but because of priority of getting this meeting done, we wanted it. Yep.
That's absolutely correct. I can confirm that. Yes. Councillor Gohill.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the committee for hearing us today. I wasn't at the previous meeting as I was on annual leave, so I'm grateful to have the opportunity to represent on top of my written representation that was put into the agenda. I'll briefly summarise what I've written in the agenda, and before I do, I just want to say that I live in Hillingdon Road myself. I don't know if that should be declared, but I will mention that, and I do recognise that it's a very popular local business, and it's nice to have a local business open in the area. But I do have some points of concern. So my first one was around prevention of public nuisance, and that was the extension of the sale of alcohol. And I've lived there for the past 15 years now, and I know that alongside many other residents who live
who live in the area, there have been a number of incidents, a number of very concerning incidents, and a number of less concerning but also frustrating incidents. And whilst that's not an explicit point, I think it should be taken into account. You know, when there's cars double parked on the yellow lines outside, when a bus can't get through, it's a popular bus route and also an ambulance route, because of, you know, cars being parked either side, or a lorry coming down the other side, and, you know, not having enough pathway for two cars. It is exceptionally frustrating. Or when there's people exiting the venue at late hours, and they're shouting as they do so, throwing cigarette packets, which I've seen firsthand as I've driven past there or walked past there myself. It does leave a less than ideal picture of the area, and indeed of the borough as well. When there are people passing through, especially from, you know, we have to take into account it's a through route from Heathrow as well. People coming off Stockley Park will, and from the airport, will come through to get into Uxbridge Town Centre or elsewhere. And it's the picture that we paint of our local area. Not just that, but that on behalf of the residents as well, who like and protect their local area. We have a very good set of litter pickers in our local area as well, alongside the garbage team, and they are constantly disappointed. They're constantly disappointed with what they find nearby the venue. And so that was my first point. Shouting excessively, littering. In some rare cases, I've even seen a fight occur outside, just near the traffic lights. It was broken up by the security guard there, so they are doing their jobs, but why should it occur in the first place? My second and very closely related point is about crime and disorder. My understanding is that the venue in its current standing, with its current license, just about manages to keep it under control. And you know, I won't spend my time echoing what PSBO Brown is saying. And you can shake your head. You'll have time for questions afterwards. But you know, my feeling is if operating hours were extended to 2 in the morning, I think it would lead to an increase in crime. There's other bits that I'd like to point out as well. In the agenda, it's the applicant has asked that the capacity of the venue, which is currently 154 people, for that to be removed from the new license. It says the current condition limiting the capacity of the venue to 154. Condition number 30 has been omitted/removed from the new proposal. That's what I'm reading off the agenda. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Please correct me if I am wrong. But
I think we do need to check that, because I wasn't, as you can see, I'm just like trying to take that on. It's a big pack, isn't it? So we will check that. Thank you.
It's on page 59, Lois, if you need to see that. So my basis on what I've read in front of the screen in front of me, and honestly, if the number of people attending the venue was to increase, it becomes harder to control it. It becomes harder to control if there's any unruly behaviour, if there's anything going on. And yes, there might be an increased number of staff, but it still becomes difficult to control. With more people attending, there's also more cars parked, more of these issues. These issues become exacerbated over the course of time. There is also another condition, which if you, Lewis, if you could check as well, because there's just 2 points underneath, where number 37, which is the amplified music, has been omitted or removed from the new proposal as well. There was a lot of talk earlier in this meeting about the 87 or 88 decibel cutoff point. If that's being removed, then if that's being removed altogether, then God knows how loud this music can get. And it is a problem for people with young children in the area, and there are a lot of people with young children and families in the area that we have talked to. Now, I wasn't there on the day that my colleagues were door knocking, as I was on annual leave at the time, but what I have based this on is the past year's worth. Since the last licence has been approved, I've had residents coming and getting in contact with me, and and complaining about these issues. They are also based on our local Colum and Cowley SNT meetings, safe neighbourhood team meetings. These are meetings led by the police, and people come and they talk to the police there. There's one point I would like to make, if it's through you, Chair. As a three in our ward, we don't all get in contact with all local businesses. So I haven't been in contact with yourselves. No, you won't. But you have contacted Councillor Chandal, and that's how we run things in our ward. But there is an aspect of proactive thinking, I think, that should be taken into account here as well. Very early on in the meeting, the representative said, as far as we're concerned, it's all going something along the lines of, as far as we're concerned, as far as we're aware, there haven't been issues. And my concern here is that they haven't been aware enough. You know, there is a, and you can look shocked, but you could have come along to the. No, you have your time to speak. I'm sorry. You'll have your time to speak afterwards. But you could have come along to local SNT meetings, and you could have also gotten in touch with us as well via email. And you know, none of that had been done. And then, so to say, if there hasn't been any issues, I think it's a bit of a thin veil. I would have been very happy to come along there and discuss that, because there have been a number, 21 to be precise, different residents complaining over the course of the last year. So, you know, I think that's what I'm basing my case on. I would like to echo what PC Brown said, what PC Brown said, and said, look, I'm not convinced that they're going to uphold the limitations of the new licence, given that they have already failed to do so with their current licence, and they're asking for extended hours, which is going to cause a lot of grief, a lot of stress, and a lot of nuisance for residents nearby. And so at the end of my written representation, I wrote that perhaps if they'd, requested smaller extensions, it might have been more palatable. But to have such a large increase, up to 2 a.m. on a Thursday, a working day for the majority of people, and a school night for children as well who live nearby, I just think it's entirely unpalatable, and I stand by my representation against this extension application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gohill. We just clarify two questions, obviously, that you brought up. One is the maximum number allowed of 150, and one is the amplified music. Lois.
Okay, I've had the opportunity, Chair, to just check on the capacity. On the current licence, condition number 30 under public safety says the premises maximum capacity shall be limited to 154 patrons. I've had a look at the operating schedule, and I've also cross-referenced that with the additional information that's in the pack provided by Mr. Samaru in response. I can't see it, but that's not to say that with the sheer amount in the pack and skimming through it that I may have missed it, but I'm sure Mr. Samaru will correct me if I'm not right, that I don't see a maximum capacity listed under the variation. But if Councillor Gohill could just clarify for me your concern with regards to a condition about amplified music, I'll have a look at that as well.
So on page 59 of the public pack agenda, it says the current condition stating that there will be no amplified noise / music or speakers permitted in the external area of the premises. Condition number 37 has been omitted / removed from the new proposal.
Okay, if you just bear with me while I just check the application and all the additional information, I should be able to clarify that imminently.
Thank you, Lois, for making those checks. Perhaps we can move on in the questions, and now we'll have the opportunity to have a discussion between everybody, and then perhaps we can revisit that topic.
Absolutely, yes. I've just got one question for Councillor Gohill.
Apologies.
Okay.
I should have said, before we move on to discussion, perhaps if the councillors have any questions of what was being presented.
Just a quick question. I do feel like I'm repeating myself, but I just want to make sure. Has the applicant come to you, as you're both ward councillors, you're both representing, obviously, the residents, has the applicant come to you to request support or advice or any intervention that they could do to improve things like the parking, the rubbish and the litter, etc., etc.
Not to me, Chair, but as I said previously, we don't all get in contact with the businesses. So Councillor Chamdal might have something to comment.
Yes.
Okay, so the answer is yes, the applicant has contacted you.
I don't believe on this one, but previously he has asked questions regards licensing objectives and basically what to do on certain aspects. And yes, that's why my representation, I said to me he came across very proactive, and I welcome that.
I think it was around the residents and parking and, working together really to combat the issues. I know parking isn't something you have to do, but just to combat the residents' concerns around parking and rubbish, etc., etc. I presume that's a no, or?
I mean, the premises are what they are. In terms of parking, they have one parking area at the front, which, I don't know, 4 or 5 cars, maybe 6 cars maximum. So in terms of, they used to have another premises where they used to park cars. But with the current hours that they operate, the issue is not as great as it used to be when they were extended hours, past 2,300 hours.
I think I'm a little bit confused. Is there parking issues or not?
No, not to me, no. I think previously in the past, because there have been a number of applications, I think they have previously got in touch with Councillor Chamdal. I think that clears up the question, Chair.
Thank you for clarifying that. Questions from councillors? Councillor Davies.
I might be stealing Councillor Lukmana's question here, but I'm going to do it anyway, and I do apologise. Councillor Gohill, you said that you'd witnessed a fight outside the premises being broken up by the SAA staff. Had you reported that yourself to the police at the time?
No, and that's because it was late in the evening. I was on my way home, and it was broken up within about 15 seconds. It was something that was about to erupt, but was stopped, and the people moved away. I didn't feel the need to report that.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Lukmana.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Gohill, you mentioned the SNT meetings and that the licence holder has never been to them. Are the SNT meetings open to everybody, or is it just members?
Nope, they're open to all residents. Any all residents, all people in the area, they can attend, whether you live in the area or not. Actually,
right.
Though I don't know.
Thank
I don't
you.
know why I attend one in Ruislip, for example.
Can I ask a question to the licence holder?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Are you aware of these meetings, the Safer Neighbourhood Team meetings?
I've never been aware or been in contact about any such meeting.
Thank you. Maybe there's something that the councillors could make you aware of. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, if I could add in, they are run by the police and by OWL, so I'd recommend you sign up via OWL once you have a chance.
Thank you, and perhaps that's something we can talk about as we lead into the discussion now as well, around exactly communication. I'm hearing a lot about communication and how items are being communicated. I'm hearing a lot about the conditions not being met, but how that's going to move forward. We're just going to go into Lois, so we're just going to shoot. It's a bit like news TV. We're just going to shoot over to Lois to confirm.
So in answer to your question, Councillor Gohill, if you look at page 83, this is the additional conditions that have been offered by the premises licence holder, subject to the first hearing. Point 4 does say that there shall be no amplified noise/music or speakers permitted in the external area of the premises. I believe this may be the condition that PC Penny Brown referred to and said that there's an opportunity today to perhaps just clarify that particular condition going forward. Thank you.
Absolutely, and maybe actually that might be a good one to start with, to clarify the position. I think I still have the indoor and outdoor. I'm understanding that, I know there was a breach of planning as well that's come into effect. I want to understand a little bit more about that. But I think first question really is for me is about the indoor and outdoor and the amplified music. So I think we can cover three things. The amplified music, the obviously the ID check. I think that's important. Totaling the number of people that are coming into the building. So if we can start off, first of all, with the amplified music, please.
Yes, Chair. I want to clarify that there is no change requested to the existing licence for the outside area. So whatever conditions were set by yourselves at the previous licence hearing, that remains the same. And one of the reasons for that is they are aware that it's an outside area. So inside, they can control any noise leakage or any noise breakout. So that's why there's no change and no request for the outside area for any licensable activity. With regards to your question regarding amplified music, at the first hearing it was expressed that any music played in the outside area or any music played must be played through a reducing amplifier, which they do. They don't have any external speakers. Everything is played through their TVs, which has to go through the amplifier, through the limiter, I beg your pardon. Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to pick up as well on preventative steps, which we haven't actually mentioned in here, but if we were to go across into the longer hours and we were to agree that, can you just explain to me what precautionary measures, preventative steps you have in place already as obviously an applicant to deterrent any trouble? So that's preventative steps.
Yes, Chair. It's a difficult question in a way. I'll tell you why. Because it seems to feel a little of them and us situation, but that is not what we what we're about at all. But I may have come across to them a bit aggressive, but that's not me. I'm representing my client, and if I don't agree with something, I have to say, and I'm very direct about it. But there's nothing personal about it whatsoever. With regards to preventative steps, you've said 3 or 4 times here there were 43 conditions, which is a lot of conditions placed on the licence, and the licence was robust. Some of the conditions were left off, not intentionally. Some were when the conditions were put together. Some I didn't feel were necessary, and others there was a bit of a mistake maybe in leaving some of the conditions on. But the licence application as now, after speaking with Daniel and the police regarding the conditions that weren't there that have been now proposed to be put back on, makes the licence very strong. The one question regarding the numbers, they have no intention of increasing the numbers, and if that's a condition that the committee would like to see back on there, with keeping it at 154, then they're quite happy with that. A lot's been said about parking. We cannot condition our licence regarding parking, as your legal advisor will no doubt advise you. However, they have taken the step to put a warden in high-vis outside, which they didn't have to do. There's mention of double yellow lines outside the premises. There aren't any double yellow lines, so people are entitled to park there after 6 o'clock. However, Penny will tell you that the warden is out there, because when she went to park, he did approach Penny. So they're trying to control that. If someone goes and parks behind a bus stop, I saw, we don't want to create confrontation with people, because it's not their job to tell them. But what they will do is advise them not to do that, and if they don't take their advice, they won't be allowed into the venue. And that's the instructions the door staff and the warden that are in contact on radio have. So there's a certain amount they can do. So those are the sort of things, Chair, that they can do. But as to put additional conditions, how far do we go? You know, it's up to you. For what you've heard today, you may well come back to me and say, Mr. Sammy, we feel that these would be good, you know, and we're absolutely open to that. totally, and to work with the councillors, and not work against them, but it's very difficult if the councillors don't approach the venue. There is this, it seems like a barrier, but there isn't a barrier whatsoever. Everyone wants to work with their local councillors, especially with Mr Chandler having so much experience in the area. I'm sure there can be some way that they can share information and make the venue work without over-conditioning it, which then makes it almost setting them up to fail, because there are so many conditions they're going to breach one day. We don't want that. So it has to be a workable licence. So.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from the licence holder. I think I might not have made myself understood properly. What I was asking for is what preventative things are you going to put in place? And it's a bit like doing a safety, isn't it? You look at the safety, you think, okay, if we're going to be open till 2 o'clock in the morning, this might happen, this might happen, this might happen, and therefore this is what we're going to do. We have got an extension in house, we have got an extension in entertainment, we have got an extension in drinking time. And our main concern is always against, obviously, prevention against crime and disorder, safety of people. So I can only speak for myself. If I was going to do something till, say, 2 in the morning, I was going to have some extra hours on, I'd be looking at health and safety, I'd be looking at prevention before it's happening. So I'd like to hear from the licence holder. In your opinion, what do you think have you looked at this and brought through some safety issues that need to be adhered to for, opening till 2 o'clock, etc., etc. So it's a bit like a safety thing, forward plan, really, I suppose, a forward prevention plan. Thank you.
Yeah, so currently all my staff are trained in refusing alcohol. We do have door supervisors, especially on the event where PC Brown arrived. We had 4 door supervisors on the premises. We do stop serving alcohol. So if we have our license till 2 o'clock, our last order would be at 1 o'clock. So they have an hour through. Always in my briefings with my staff, we go through our briefings, so we go through allergies, etc., all of this. With people that we can see are getting a bit tipsy or anything, obviously we offer them water. We try to offer them some snacks to make them feel a bit more on their feet. We've had no incidents in the last year that I've been managing this premises. We've had no fights. That's why I was really surprised by what Councillor was saying. We've never had a fight in our premises, nor outside or inside. And yeah, that's it. All my staff are very well trained. We've had no incidents in terms of over drunk or people being rowdy or shouting or cigarette throwing outside. I've never witnessed any of this.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So I think the answer to my question is there isn't anything that has been done any differently for the extension of hours for prevention or looking forward, really a forward plan.
Now the only comment I can make to you, Councillor, is what he just said. There haven't been any issues. So for an extra hour, yes, he would put on extra door staff. With regards to the parking, just because you have an extra hour, but the last entry time doesn't necessarily mean you can have more people turning up. So it's not, and so the amount of people is restricted to 154. So the volume of people isn't going to change. So if they're going to be drinking for an extra hour, the only preventative thing is to train your staff, which I've done the training for them, as you know. They've done their responsible alcohol retailing, and if they're going to be to capacity, they will put on extra door staff. That's something we've already spoken about. And as an operator, he's fully aware that he has to ensure that his clients are safe. He has a dispersal policy already in place, as you know. The only thing that I have suggested that we would do is have an entry policy. But that is something that I will speak to him about anyhow. So.
All right, okay, so an entry policy. Thank you. I have got a lot of questions, but I'm going to hand it over to my councillors first, give them the opportunity to be able to ask and do the discussions, and I'll follow through with any that they haven't thought of. So, councillors. Councillor Davis.
Thank you. How many days a week do you work?
6 days a week.
6 days a week. Yeah, just 6 days a week.
Yeah, 6 days.
Okay. Is your initials MH?
Yes.
How comes you filled out the noise assessment 11 days in a row?
11 days in a row.
Yeah, if you work 6 days a week...
I live literally next door. So I live down the road. I'm always in the premises. Even on my day off, I go to the premises.
Morning. So is this twice a day or once a day?
Twice a day.
Twice a day?
No, once a day, sorry. Once a day during the peak hour.
Okay.
So when it's busy.
Okay. I work in this trade, I feel your pain.
Yeah.
So I'll leave that one there. I've got another question, if I may. On the night in question, when PC Brown come in, you was at the bar?
Yes, I was at the bar.
So how, in the statement it said, what we discussed earlier, it said you'd actually seen PC Brown?
Yes.
Well, from the bar? From the bar plan, I know the principal.
I didn't see PC Brown. I was radioed that 3 people are coming in and to speak to them.
Okay, it was stated earlier that you saw PC Brown.
Yeah, I saw her walking in, and I was radioed it
from
at the same
bar.
time. Yeah, from the bar.
Okay, that's quite a large line of sight from the plan. So,
no.
Was you at the bar?
Yeah, I was at the bar.
You was at the bar.
You can literally, so the bar is here, the door is where it says Hillingdon right there.
Okay. All right. I'll leave that there just so I prep my next question, Chairman.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I can fire off then. I've got a few here. I think one of the biggest things out of this is obviously adhering to the current conditions, regardless. And it's the all, I think, that we've mentioned, and I know you would agree with that, and it's everything. And the other thing is the discrepancy of obviously the concerns over the police report and your report. So I'm just going to ask you, first of all, on the night, obviously, and the scanned ID, right? So I think my main question is, regardless of who it is, regardless of what's happening, because, I mean, I go to a lot of restaurants, right? And I know my daughters as well. And, you know, they can dress up to look like they're 30, 35, 40. Our opinion of age is very different to the actual age of someone. So I just want a few responses to why you wouldn't ID check. Because I know in here you've said, oh, but, you know, they clearly look over 25. How can someone clearly look over, and would you trust yourself to make, or the doorman to make that decision? Thank you.
So, PC Brown said there was no one being ID'd when she arrived to the premises. There is a report that we had to remove because of GDPR. However, there was 80 ID scanned people on that night. Yeah. So, ideally, we do try and ID everyone. But if we have senior couple, people coming in with grey hair, you look over 40, it is sometimes, and sometimes I don't even have their IDs on them. They'll be like, why are you IDing me? I'm just coming here for a peaceful sit down with my wife to have some food, a bottle of wine and leave. So that's, yeah.
I think, I mean, I understand that, but the condition is all. You didn't scan PC's ID. And obviously the other point of scanning ID is, which I think Councillor Davis brought up, is that there could actually be trouble from that person, right? So this is not exactly just because they might be underage. There could be some issues later on in the night, and then you know who it is. Whereas if we're not scanning someone, and, you know, I'm just saying, I don't know whether you want to respond to that.
Yes, Chair. I'm not a door supervisor. I'm the manager inside. So what I do is I have briefings with the security, which I make them aware of our conditions. They've been working with us. They know the conditions. They know when's last entry. They know when to take ID, and they know how to refuse people. And in our refusal book that I have given to Daniel Ferrer and the police, they've seen that there has been several refusals, We even have a review on the internet of people saying we've driven all the way there and we were refused entry after 10 o'clock. This was 3 months ago. So we do our job. But I do manage the front of house, bit of the back of house, so it's a very stressful job for myself, especially with 43 conditions. I dream about them at night, you know.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Chair, can I just add to that? Obviously, I don't know many restaurants that have an ID scanner to go into a restaurant. However, I am obviously aware of the serious incidents that happened in the premises before Mr. Mohammed took over. So I understand why the ID scanner was there. I wasn't present at the last hearing, but it was obviously something that was decided. Our only point was 6 o'clock in the evening when families are coming in, I don't think was generally the idea between having an ID scanner. Most ID scanners are for nightclubs or bars where, you know, this has become a really nice family restaurant. And it can almost be embarrassing for an elderly couple to come along, have to be refused entry because he hasn't got his ID, which a lot of older people don't even realise they have to have ID to go out. Younger people, they're going to a club or a bar, yeah, it's common that they have to have an ID, whether they have to scan it or not, it depends if they have a scanner. So the only difficulty for him, and he's asked, if he'll keep the scanner, but can we start from 9 o'clock when they wouldn't allow unaccompanied under 18s in anyway? He runs Challenge 25, and he's very stringent on that. But that's not what he meant about the scanner. What he meant was, if somebody turns up and they're obviously 45, 50 years old, that would be, and they don't have ID, that would probably have been a decision that himself or his doorman would have made at the time. Now, I agree, in that instance, that would be a breach. I think a little bit of education there for him and a bit of understanding with the police on how that would work better would be great.
And I think that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, that's what we want to do. We want to work with everyone. And it's rather than you breach this, you breach that. And it's not about whether there's serious breaches or not serious breaches. Every breach is a breach. And, you know, we haven't called the police liars. We haven't, what we've said is maybe a different interpretation of what happened. But they're all things that are not serious enough for us to fall out over. But they are things that we can sit around the table and say, look, Mel, or look, Mel, you left these conditions off, which they did. We put them back on. We've worked with them with that. And if there are, all I've been hearing is that, oh, there's been complaints. Mr. Mohammed cannot do anything about them if he knows nothing about them. If he's not told, and I think Daniel did have a meeting with him about a breach, that happened at 2 o'clock in the afternoon for a Hillingdon Council event. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And what was it for?
It was for the autism charity. So yeah, on that event, it was for autism, raising money for autism, and that was with the Hillingdon Council. And I only had one meeting with Daniel Ferreira within this year, and it was about that event. I wasn't aware of any other noise complaints or any complaints from the neighbours. I do get the odd call from a neighbour, and I do speak to them. I do try and liaise with them, see what we can do. Apart from that, I haven't had any information about complaints.
Thank you.
And the complaint, Chair, was about somebody playing a violin. It's not. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Thank you, and I think we've had other complaints other than that about noise. So I think that's just one isolated, but I understand what you're saying. But what my biggest concern is, it does matter actually, because whatever you do is you're responsible for the prevention of crime and disorder and public safety. And, you know, you can't take that back when something happens, right? I think that's my biggest concern. And we have to be really, really mindful of this, especially if we're looking at someone leaving a venue at 2 a.m. on a Thursday. You know, on a Thursday morning, or any time. really. This is about public safety. Everything is in there. The conditions are in there for the public safety, for prevention, not waiting for something to happen, but the prevention of an incident. I just wanted to check on the numbers as well, because I did get a little bit, it's a big pack, isn't it? So I can understand what you're saying as well with all the conditions, but I'm just a little bit concerned about how you're regulating the numbers. I'm aware that, the evidence that we have from the police stands that there was no number checking because it was booked. But people can change their booking, can't they? You can go in and book a table for 4 and end up being 6 of you, right? And you go in. But if you ask me the question, have you booked a table? I would say, yes, I have. Because I have. But that would increase the numbers. So I'm just wondering if you could explain a little bit more about, because I'm a little bit confused. I understand the booking system and everything, but you're just taking people's word for it again. It's a bit like, well, yes, okay, I booked a table for 4, and they could actually be 6 of them. They're just going to say, yes, I booked a table, but I don't know. So if you could explain a little bit more around that table booking system, around how you're clocking people coming in, the old ticker, how you're knowing how many people are coming in and how you're controlling that. Thank you.
Yeah, so we have open tables, so we've got a big iPad in the restaurant, in the front of house and in the shisha garden, yeah. So the amount of tables, so let's say we've got the first table, table 1, it has a booking of 4 people. Let's say there's 6 now. So if there's 6, we go in the table and we put how many people are seated at that table. So that's how we know how many people we have in the house. When they're coming in, so on that night it was fully booked. So if they booked for 4 and there were 6, the 2 people that came with them were not allowed in because we didn't simply have seats to seat them. So if we had 100 people, it was only 100 people. That was it.
I think I understand. So when they come in and they book they couldn't go to the bar then or something like they wouldn't be anywhere else. That's I think what I want to try and clear. Could they go into the outside? Could they, where's the control? Could they be out in the garden?
I was just going to clarify for you, Chair. There's conditional. There's no vertical drinking, so everybody has to be seated. So he can control the number of people coming in by the number of seats he has. Once it's reached that figure, he's fully booked. That's it.
That really clarifies it. Thank you very much. That's a good clarification. I'm going to hand over to Councillor David.
Thank you. Are you a member of Pub Watch?
No, I'm not.
Is there a reason why?
No, there is no reason.
Okay, you need to join Pub Watch.
Pub Watch, sure.
Okay, that's away from this. You need to join Pub Watch.
Right.
The CCTV, when you had the meeting with the police, it does say that all staff have to be trained on CCTV. They couldn't view the footage at the time because people weren't trained. Why?
I am trained on CCTV. I've showed them the CCTV. However, to go back to backdate it, I'm not very aware to do it on the actual hard drive thing. But I do have someone that's trained and he's working there every day. He just wasn't there when they came at 12 in the morning.
But the condition is for you to be trained how to use the system for it to be available.
I do know how to use it to show them
but
the
you
system.
Couldn't show the police at the time?
I couldn't backdate it.
So you're not fully trained on it?
No.
Okay. If I may, I understand you've got 43 conditions and you think that's excessive. In your opinion, it's excessive. But with them 43 conditions, you've had no trouble at the venue? No?
No.
So the conditions are working?
Yeah.
So what's in place is working? So I understand
absolutely
what you're saying. So if we today were to look to amend them with what you've said, that potentially puts us in a completely different situation. What you have in place now works, okay? This trade, I get it's hard. We all do. A number of us are working it. I get it, okay? I'll leave it there. Chairman, I've got one question for the Environment and Health team on decibels. Can you continue your point you were going to make earlier on the 87 cutout? Because I believe it should be around 77.
Yeah, I was just, I'd not heard of the sort of system you've got put in place where TVs are fed into a limiter then cut off at 87. I just wanted to hear about that because I've not seen it before. I've never heard of it before. So I just wondered if you could tell me about it. How does it work? How does it cut off?
It's a limiter that is wired for the electrical system.
Yeah.
So there's a microphone at the limiter which can be set to a certain decibel. As that decibel, if that decibel is goes over that figure that is set at, it will cut the power. Now that power is the sockets that would be running the TVs or anything else that would be like if you had an amplifier, if you had a DJ with his decorate, that would all have to go through the same ring that goes then through the limiter and the TV. So if that goes above, cuts the power. Then it would have to be reset and rebooted. However, Jamie, the thing that I'm not sure about is what that level should be set at. I've normally, for a background music in a restaurant, 65, 70, or you should be able to speak comfortably without having to raise your voice to speak to the person next to you. But that is something that we'd be open for Daniel's team to come in, or we would do an external survey, independent, a report which I've done for many other premises, and that can be conditioned on the licence very easily to say it has to have the same as you would a dispersal policy. It must have a audio report that states what the decibel should be, and it should be set by the council officer, which is a normal thing that we're happy to do. So.
Yeah, that's all I would say, because when you said 87 decibels, we deal with big venues who cut off close to that internally, and you're talking externally, so I just wanted to get the exact level of what your decibels cuts out at.
For you, Chairman, are we able to find out that? Are you able to find out now what that machine cuts off at?
Let me try and check.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, Councillor Lakmana?
On page 95, point 8, says in the event that there is a failure in the CCTV system, there shall be no sale of alcohol until the system has been restored as per the minimum requirements of the Met Police Service. Has this ever happened, and has it been adhered to?
I'm not aware of it happening in council. I'm not there all the time, you know.
Yes, it has happened, yeah. I think it's quite a long time back, 5, 6 months, I'm not quite sure, but it was adhered to, and it was logged into our report, and we called out the engineer, and he came on the same day to fix it.
I just have a few questions, really more clarification still for me. Sorry, takes me a while. Entertainment, outdoors. Can you just explain to me the times and the implementations and what you have around the amplified, like the amplified music, what do you have around the sound? Because I did get a little bit confused again with this outdoor, because this is a new condition, right? Entertainment outside. So can you just explain a little bit more about that? Because I'm concerned that we've got high noise level already, and if it's going outside, that's going to, could potentially, might not, but could potentially be a problem. So yes, please.
No, the outside area, councillors, is not changing at all. There is no application to extend the hours or anything. So that is exactly the extension of hours inside. But the outside area is no different from what it's been operating for the last 18 months.
Okay, I might have that wrong then.
Can we also just clarify when we're talking about entertainment, because you've obviously got regulated entertainment in respect of recorded music, but also the performance of dance, belly dance, I think perhaps we need to explore whether or not you're proposing. I accept that you're saying there's going to be no change in relation to the external area, but if you could clarify if that also encompasses belly dancing or performance of life.
Thank you.
As you're aware, under deregulation up until 11 o'clock, performance of dance or any regulated entertainment is deregulated up until 11 o'clock. So there is no change. What they've done to give comfort to the residents and operate for the last 18 months without huge deluge of complaints is to run everything through a limiter. They don't have live music. They do have a belly dancer. That's early in the evening. So nothing as far as the outside area they want to change at all. The extension is for inside, where it's obviously can be controlled a lot easier.
Chairman, can I just clarify?
Yes,
But
please.
on page 25 of your application, you've put the box indoors, outdoors, and both for recorded music. So I accept what you're saying about, I get it, the belly dancing, but we're talking about regulated entertainment in the form of recorded music. So you're proposing that will go on to like 1:30, Thursday, Friday and Saturday, which is a change in the outside area.
That's not what we want.
But that's what your application proposes.
I think we spoke about this, Dan, because when we spoke on the phone, you mentioned before.
I've never spoken to you on the phone. And when we spoke at the meeting, we clarified.
Sorry, can you put your mic on as well, please? Sorry.
I phoned you and spoke to you on the phone. If you remember, oh, yes, I did.
I'm not aware.
And
of
you actually mentioned that to me on the phone.
I'm not aware of a phone conversation that I've had with you. We touched on this point at the meeting. And I clarified the point that your application states this. I get the belly dancing, but what you're proposing, if there's no changes on that, you're saying that music is going on till recorded music 1:30 Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, which is a change to the existing license. Surely.
What we want to propose, as I said, is no change to the outside area. So, if it says indoor and outdoor, I'm happy to say, okay, whatever the situation is there, that is it. But that is not, as far as the understanding we had. And if our application hasn't been clear enough on that, then I apologise. However, again, the outside area we don't want to change. We only want to talk about the extended hours for inside, because we are aware that up until 11 o'clock it's deregulated anyway. So why would we, he doesn't want to go late outside playing music, because that's only going to upset people. So.
Yes, Councillor Davis. I was just about to fire off a question there.
Sorry, can we get some clarity on this? Because this has gone, like, if there's a mistake in the application, you put it through wrong, then it needs to be corrected now. We're making a legal decision on what's going to happen. If there's a mistake, Chantel, can we just get... I don't want to put my name to something that potentially could be wrong.
I completely agree, and I think this is what I was thinking on the same lines as Daniel, what you were saying. So I have to say, and that was my next question, was I'm a little bit confused over exactly what we're looking at here now. So, yes, Lois, can we have some clarification?
Can I, just before that happens, if we make a decision on this, we're making a decision of the information on this pack.
Well, you're entitled to make a decision on what's been presented before you, not only in the pack, but also what's been represented by the representative.
Perfect.
So if it's the case now that they are categorically stating that there's going to be no change to the outside area, and that is what is being put forward, which is what you've just stated, then you're entitled to make a decision based on that representation.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm here from Lowen.
So I'm looking at page 25 in the bundle, which is the application submitted by the applicant, provision of recorded music. The timings listed are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 10 a.m. until 00:30 hours, Thursday, and that's the same for Sunday, 10 o'clock until 00:30, and then Thursday, Friday and Saturday, it quite clearly states here that it's 10 until 01:30 hours. Now there's a box at the bottom, underneath that it says, will the playing of recorded music take place indoors or outdoors or both? And the box both has been ticked. In addition, where it says state type of activity to be authorised, if not already stated, and give relevant further details, for example, but not exclusively, whether or not music will be amplified or unamplified. The application then goes on to say, in this box, recorded music, Sunday to Wednesday from 10 until 00:30, Thursday to Saturday from 10 until 01:30, music to be played through sound limiting device. So that's exactly as it's written in the application. But obviously, perhaps Mr. Samaru can give clarification if those timings are actually going to be different now to what was originally on the application.
And I completely agree. I think we do need a clarification, please, because I think that's really, really important. And as Councillor David said, we're due to look at all this as a whole, and we need to be very aware and very clear what the changes will be now. Now we're deciding, yeah?
Yes, Chair. The application was to extend the hours of licence for activity inside, so it should be on, not on and off. And with that change, I think that then satisfies everything. I think there was something on there that clarifies that everything has to go through the sound limiter. So I think that might give Daniel and Penny the comfort that nothing outside we're looking to change.
Only
the extent.
Only the entertainment, because we're not allowed entertainment.
Sorry, can you turn your mic on when you're talking so we can all hear what you're saying?
Only the entertainment side of it in the external area. We wanted an entertainment 30 minutes for the belly dancer, but I think that's deregulated, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. There's still a few things that I just want to clarify. On page 9, and this is under the officer's observation, we have an alleged breach of planning to remove a retractable roof. What was that? Sorry, page 9, it's under the officer's observations. And I just did not know what this retractor... Yeah, 7.4, thank you, Liz. 7.4. I understand you want to speak, but I just want to hear from the licence first.
Sorry, I can't see retractable roof here on 7.4. The last sentence. Pavement outside behind the bus stops. Where is it?
I think ours might be different because our last line on it says something about a bus stop. The last two words, retractable roof.
Oh, there you go. An alleged breach of planning order to remove a retractable roof. When was this? We weren't aware of any planning. We weren't, reached out by any planning or anything in that case.
It's gone through somewhere because it's a alleged breach, so...
If I can perhaps... this was a complaint that had been submitted, and that was an allegation that was within the complaint. We haven't received anything from planning. There's no objection from planning that's been made to this particular application, and they've not raised that. It was just an allegation.
That's wonderful. That's really given a good clarity on that. Thank you very much. Are there any more questions? Yes?
Sorry, I just wanted some little clarity about the capacity. Obviously, you said you're willing to have that 154 cap remain. In your additional evidence on the page 83, you mentioned for your additional steps, point 3, you've said about a maximum of 135, and it's achieved through booking numbers and mechanical counting device. So I just wanted some explanation for everyone. If it's 154, it's 154. I just wanted to clarify what the capacity will be, and if you are intending to be using the clickers from now on. And also, it might be useful for everyone to know, I know it's something that was discussed before, just, I'm not proposing, conditioning it as such, but just so everyone understands your capacity in the different areas, because I understand you break it down as a capacity in different areas. So the outside, for example, is different to your inside. It just might be useful for everyone to understand that. Thank you.
So would like to keep it at 154, and I believe it is 60 in the internal public house, and it's 94 in the outside area.
And sorry, and just you're going to be using the mechanical counting device. It says that. Is that something that you're doing now, or?
Yeah, we will be doing this.
Thank you for the clarification.
Not a problem. Councillor Shandell.
Thank you, Chair. A few points I just picked up. Were the DPS offering a condition for the sale of alcohol from up to 1 o'clock? Because that's what I heard him say. Is that correct?
Yes, we can do this. We can offer up to 1 o'clock sale of alcohol.
And also, in terms of this provision of recorded music, is that also being offered up as a condition that it will, of dance until it will be only inside on those extended hours? Am I correct in understanding that?
So the belly dancer show will be outside, so in the external area, the back area, but that will be way before 11. It will be 8, sometimes 7:30, depending.
So because in your variation it states performance of dance until 00:30 hours on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and 1:30 from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and 00 hours on Sunday. Is that correct? And it says both in terms of where the performance will take place?
I'm just going to check that, sorry.
These are on page 26, 27.
Let's carry on. Yes, you can carry on. Sorry, carry on.
Can I go to the toilet quickly?
Actually, we were just going to have a comfort break. Just want to finish off the question first, but we can do a comfort break now. So we'll have a comfort break. 5 minutes? 5 minutes. 5-minute comfort break. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just bear with us, everyone. Do we have everyone? We haven't got anyone missing. We're all back from the comfort break. As you know, we're in the middle of the discussions led by... We were in the middle of discussions led by the subcommittee. We were with Councillor Roy Shandell, who was asking the last question. Do we have any more items that people would like to discuss, or are we there? Councillor Shandell.
Sorry, Chair, I don't believe the question was answered. Regards the provision of performance of dance, in your application it does state both, and the timings are for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday up to 00:30 hours, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday up to 1:30 hours, and Sunday after 00:30 hours. Could you clarify exactly what you are proposing, or?
Yeah, we were just having a discussion about that. Regarding the performance of dance, because there is no dancing on the premises because it's seated customers only, it was referring to the belly dancer. Now, the belly dancer that they have happens between 7 and 8 in the evening. Councillor, to answer your question, yeah, we're happy to look at that and either remove it from the operating schedule or to change it. And one of the concerns were that when Penny came in, she said, I think Mohammed mentioned to her that he had a belly dancer earlier, and Penny said, you're in breach. So I think he panicked a little bit and said, is he in breach? He's not in breach. So after we checked it, the belly dancer is not I was advised that belly dancer wouldn't be a breach of his premises licence as long as it didn't take place after 11 o'clock. So we were happy to remove that, and it was something we were just trying to clarify for you, Chair, that will give you some conditions that you're going to be happy with, that we've listened to everything that's been said today, and before we finish today, you'll have some revised conditions that we would like to propose to overcome some of the concerns that have been, duly raised at this hearing. Unfortunately, they weren't conditions or concerns that were raised to us before, so it's caught us out a little bit. But we're just putting a little list together that we can maybe put to you as part of our summing up, if you may.
Sorry, to go back to the belly dancing situation, but can we get some clarification from either licensing or police, or what your understanding is with regard to the current licence and the condition surrounding whether or not the performance of dance is permitted, or based on the conditions on the current licence, and whether or not you feel that they are in breach or were in breach by having a belly dancer, whether it's I think in the external area of the premises, please. Thank you.
Just have a look at the condition, this specific one, and I'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Councillor Davis.
Sorry, Chair, I did have 2 points more, if that's okay, and if I could just ask the question of the applicant on what they have on the application, because the application itself is, for me, is rather confusing. because again, once again, on page 26 and page 27, it quite clearly states provision of performance of dance, and it gives a time. And then on page 27, it gives a different time for the performance of belly dancing. So I'm not sure whether that is two different types of dance. And if I've still got the mic, could I also ask the applicant, the licence holder, DPS, regards, since this is a variation of a licence, I don't see anything about the scanner in the papers, since they have decided to operate or are offering or asking for this variation in the licence of operating a scanner from 9 o'clock in the evening instead of 6 o'clock. So I just wondered why that's not in the variation. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor, I think in the new pack that you received, we addressed that. But you are quite right. The request was not to do away with the scanner, just to have it changed from 6 in the evening to 9 o'clock in the evening.
Is this what you're proposing now?
Yes, I think it's already actually proposed from previous.
Thank you, Chair. And the final one I was going to say was a public nuisance, and I think you made that point very well, Chair. This is all about prevention. So, 2 o'clock in the morning you close, people come out of your premises, they're parked across the roads, quite right, they can do. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, 5 past 2 in the morning, they've got into their cars, the music are blaring out loud, and people are woken up on which would be a Friday morning. In terms of prevention, how are you going to manage that?
Well, Councillor, we have street wardens out there, as we mentioned before. When people are leaving, the only thing we can try and do as best as we can is to not allow people to beat their horns and scream and do whatever to shut them down the road. But out of a responsibility to the residents, we do actually take it seriously. We have put street wardens out there to try our best to reduce that. The other point you just made, which was something I was going to come on to, and after speaking with the applicant, is Thursday, which was something that was mentioned as the next day is a working day. One of the conditions we would be proposing to is to remove Thursday. So it would only be a Friday and Saturday that we would look. And I think that, again, might alleviate some of the concerns the noise control team have if people are being woken up on a Friday morning when they've got to go to work, and rather just keep it to a Friday and Saturday.
Okay, thank you. I'm very conscious of everyone's time, but it's a very important, really important issue and a really important decision that we have to make. So I think just at this point, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for being patient and sitting here and going through everything. I want to try and wrap it up now for the group discussion. Councillor Davis, last question.
Thank you. Right, I'm going to quickly try and squeeze two into one while the chairman's busy. You said that it was embarrassing to ID check people with their families when they come in on the scanner. It can sometimes be an embarrassment to an adult. We'll go with that way rather than misinterpreting what you said. What's the difference going to be with doing it at 6 p.m. and 9 p.m? So if it's embarrassing to check, it's an embarrassment to refuse someone if they haven't got ID at 6 p.m. What's the difference at 9 p.m?
It's just the majority of families tend to come out earlier than if you're going out to have a drink with your friends. So families usually come through 6, 7, 8. But at 9 o'clock, there's not much families coming out for dinner with their kids.
Okay. And one very last quick question. Environmental health guys, do you go out and check noise limiters?
No, we don't go and check noise limiters. Essentially, we are a reactive service, so if we receive a complaint about a premises, we will go out and witness that nuisance from the reporter's property.
Would you have the capability to check a noise limiter if needed?
We've got the capability to do so, yes.
Would you guys be willing to look at a condition to have that noise limiter checked by the council yearly?
Yeah, we're more than welcome to that condition.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes,
I just wanted to, if we go to, in relation to query of belly dancer inside and outside, if we go to page, I can't see it under the writing, it looks like 50, you'll see the current conditions, and it's basically 2 and 3. Conditions 2 and 3. So the provision of regulated entertainment consisting of live music, recorded music and performance of dance is permitted to take place inside the premises between Sunday and Thursdays until 2300 and on Fridays and Saturdays until midnight. And condition 3 states, there shall be no live music or performance of dance taking place in the external area of the premises. The provision of recorded music may only take place in the external area of the premises between Sunday and Thursday until 2200 and on Fridays and Saturdays until 2300. Now, on the face of it, you would say with those briefs, but I have to sort of concede to the point about the live music and the deregulation that essentially says, and it's because I know the background of this premises, and we could talk about intent, but if we take it from the black and white, that basically deregulation suspends specific conditions before 11 o'clock. So I have to take that point on board, and so in terms of that belly dancing before 11 o'clock, then potentially not a breach.
Excuse me, just a point. I think that it can only be suspended at a review, if the licence has gone to review.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think there may have been some conflation because, of course, the previously managed property, which was not managed by yourself, did and was the subject of review. This new current licence hasn't been the subject of review. So I think that's where the conflation and confusion has taken place. So I think you're quite right, and thank you very much for explaining. There is no deregulation. We're looking at it from this premises licence, and so we need to take that into consideration.
Thank you for clarifying that very important point. I'm going to bring the discussion to a close now. I think it's been very thorough. Every one of us has had a good chance to actually, ask questions, and you've answered very eloquently. So thank you very much for your time and for answering the questions. We now have the part where we have closing remarks, and I'd just like to make a point that they are brief closing remarks. And the first we have is the responsible authorities for some closing remarks. So, Daniel.
Be very short, Chairman. In summary, we'd like to say, despite all the discussions and the information pack, we still maintain our representation based on the fact that the terminal hours are too far ahead, and they will not have knock-on negative impact on those licensing objectives. We say the conditions don't go far enough in what we want, and in addition to that, the recent conduct and issues faced with the operators in coming into this hearing, doesn't fill us with confidence and trust, and so we'll be maintaining our representation. Thank you.
Thank you. And the police.
Thank you. Yes, very similar comments from myself. I'd like to pick up very briefly on something Councillor Chandel said about his interactions with Mr Hassan and getting on well with Mr Hassan. And I would like to echo that he's always presented very well to me, and I've never had any issues, obviously up until dealing with what's been said and contradicting my account of what's happened, and the issues of how he's reacted to and dealt with the failings that I've found, those main issues being around the ID scanning, the entry after 10, the use of the security and not logging the security properly, and the use of maintaining the CCTV, and just those general adhering to all conditions. It was mentioned that you can over condition places and people forget their conditions. However, I would say that these conditions are something that's part of the day-to-day operation of the business. So procedures are put in place to ensure that they are continually maintained anyway. So you may not be able to list them all to be able to say these are my conditions, but you will know that your day-to-day operation, the measures that you have in place, are ensuring that those are upheld. And so going forward, I sincerely hope that that will be the case, and anything new that is put on will be the case. And we are obviously here to assist and engage if there are any other issues at all. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Craig and team, environmental.
Our concerns remain the same, obviously, regarding the potential for noise nuisance affecting residents, and we're just keen to ensure that that doesn't happen, and we put things in place to prevent that from happening, rather than actually having to react and deal with that at a later date.
Lovely, thank you very much. Members of the public? Sorry, if you've just come with the mic, thank you.
Thank you. No, only to say it's very welcome that they're going to drop the Thursday late opening and and also reduce the hours to 1 o'clock. So from a resident, I was, as I said at the beginning, happy to support. Would have rather they'd gone a little bit earlier, and they have. So, or at least they're offering. So that sounds promising.
Thank you. And councillors?
Thank you, Chair. I again, as the resident said, I do welcome the instruction to remove Thursday, but despite that, I'm going to keep my representations based on our previously stated objections in light of public nuisance, crime and disorder in the local area. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's welcome that I hoped it would have been sooner, that they reduced the opening hours. I don't believe it's Thursday. I think Sunday to Thursday was being offered. I think that needs to be clarified. But in terms of the resident concerns about nuisance, I believe that still exists. But it's good to see that they are listening, and I'm still not happy with the hours for Friday and Saturday. I believe they can be reduced also.
Thank you very much. I think we've heard from everyone on the closing remarks. And the licensee. Oh, no, sorry, Lois. Do apologise.
No, it's okay, Councillor. No comments from me.
Thank you. So now the applicant.
Thank you, Chair. We have listened to what everyone has said today. And I hope that the committee appreciates there have been a lot of people throwing objections and different ideas and everything else. And it's very difficult sometimes to be here, just us trying to sort this out in a very rapid response to what everyone has said. I do want to still make the point that the premises has received very few complaints with regards to no antisocial behaviour. They've never had to call the police. The police have admitted they've had very little interaction with the premises because they haven't needed to. And the only interaction really has come about from everybody is when the application's gone in to increase the hours. And then everyone's thrown their arms up in horror and said, no, we can't have this. However, I think it's very important for everyone to understand it is a very, very well-run premises. With regards to the breaches, there have been breaches that either did or didn't happen, maybe under misunderstandings, but they were something that we could have very easily sat down with everyone, if they had concerns about them, and said, oh, look, the details around your ID scanner, this is what you've got to do unless you put in an application to change it, and so on and so forth. So I know I came across a little bit spicy earlier on, but it's not personal. It's just trying to get our point across sometimes when I've got a lot of people pointing the finger at him saying, you've done this and you've done that. I mentioned right at the beginning that we have listened to the councillors. We've listened to Daniel, we've listened to the police. So there are some changes in the conditions that we wish to propose. One of the main things that we came out of this was everybody still has to go to work on a Friday morning. And if they were to be disturbed, that would obviously create a problem. So after speaking to the applicant, he is happy to review that and take off Thursday, so it would be Friday and Saturday, and it would operate from Sunday to Thursday would be the reduced hours. With some clarification that I know is difficult for everybody, what we propose for the outside area, there is no change, except speaking to the applicant, he would like to keep his late night refreshment in the outside area, but no entertainment, which is what he was trying to explain earlier. So no regulated entertainment in the outside area beyond what's already been applied for. The ID scanner is something that we're not going to dig our heels in about, but I hope that everyone can be sensible about it and say that he does get a lot of families turn up at 6 o'clock, between 6 and 9 in the evening. So all he's asking for is, can the ID scanner, which isn't a normal thing at a restaurant anyway, just be pushed back to 9 o'clock. He has to do it at 6 o'clock now, but it does cause a bit of upset to some of his more elderly customers that turn up and say, what do you want to scan my ID for at 6 o'clock at night? So that's the only reason. However, it's not a point that we would dig our heels in and say, oh no, that's what we've got to have. It's just something to help the venue be a bit more amicable to some of their clients that turn up before 9 o'clock. The capacities we don't want to change, and if I am correct, those are the capacities, aren't they?
60 inside, 94 outside.
Yeah, 60 inside and the 94 outside. That is on the original. I think that figure is 154 on the original licence that was granted. So we don't wish to change that. The last entry time, which I know the police have concerns about, and they've mentioned already about people turning up already drunk or preloaded to a venue. Friday and Saturday, we would like to propose 11 o'clock, and the rest of the week, 10 o'clock, which I think is reasonable when you think that if it's 11 o'clock, it's 12:01, you've still got 2 hours for people to have something to eat and enjoy. So they're not just turning up late at night, last thing, to have a last drink, already intoxicated. So that I think removes that. And I would just like to point out that what has come across to all of us today, that this venue has been a problem venue, but it hasn't. It's become a concern to a lot of people that we've asked to extend the hours by an hour and a half, and it's raised a lot of concerns, but it really hasn't been what I would consider a problem venue. And if I'd had the opportunity earlier to ask maybe the environmental protection team or Daniel or the police, what other venues in the borough cause you more concerns and more call-outs, there would have been many, many more. Not them. And really, we would just like to ask the committee to grant this application. Yes, it was mentioned to make more money, but it's not the sole function. You know, every business has to survive. And with the operation that he has to stop everything at 11 o'clock, which is actually 10:30, does make it very difficult every night of the week. When Friday and Saturday people do want to go and stay a bit later, if they know they can't do that there, they're not going to go there. So he just wants to be able to offer the facilities a little bit later on a Friday and Saturday for his customers, for the residents. He has a lot of residents that visit the venue, to enjoy his hospitality until on a Friday and Saturday until 1 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Did the licence holder want to say anything?
No, just thank you for having us and thank you for hearing our points, and I'm sure that you'll make a fair judgment.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone once again for your time. I know it has been an incredibly long meeting. Just to let you know, the subcommittee will remain in the room to deliberate and make their decision, with only the legal advisor and the clerk to the subcommittee remaining.
I was just going to make a point
Yeah.
about the decision, because it's been such. So normally at these hearings we are going to go out and deliberate, and normally after the deliberation we deliver the decision. However, this has been a really lengthy meeting, and we have to have that time to consider all the submissions very, very carefully. So the typical hearing we would come back on and announce the decision, but we do have the flexibility to deliver that decision after we have deliberated in full. And so I think, to be fair to everybody, we are going to go deliberate, but we are unlikely to deliver the decision today, and that's based on the fact that we do need to fully consider all the submissions and make a decision, and then deliver the full decision at a later date. It's unlikely to be today because it's quite late in the afternoon now, but it will be communicated not only on YouTube at a later date, but also in writing, and we do legally have, I think, 5 days within which to communicate it in writing. So please don't feel that you need to stay, because it's unlikely that we'll deliver the decision today.
Thank you very much.